When the crown prince drew his bow, I stepped behind the tree. The instant the bowstring snapped, pain tore through my right shoulder. The arrow had not even reached me, yet it felt as though a piece of red-hot iron had already burrowed between my bones, grinding through the wound that had festered for years in my previous life and twisting its way toward my heart. I jerked my head up. It was late spring in the imperial hunting grounds. Peach blossoms covered the trees in clouds of pink. My elder sister, Lian Mingzhu, stood beneath one of those flowering trees more than 10 paces away. She wore a brilliant crimson riding dress, and in her hair gleamed the golden feather ornament the Empress had bestowed upon her earlier that day. She turned her face slightly, as though she had heard movement behind her, but she did not look back. At the far end of the forest path, Crown Prince Xiao Qingyuan had drawn his longbow to its fullest. The cold arrowhead pointed directly toward her. It was exactly the same as before in my previous life. This was the moment I had rushed forward. I heard Mingzhu cry out. Without thinking, I threw myself between her and the arrow. It pierced straight through my right shoulder. Blood soaked my spring robes in an instant. When I woke, everyone told me the crown prince had fired that arrow as a declaration of love for Mingzhu. They said he had intended to shoot the golden feather from her hair. She had panicked, and I had misunderstood, mistakenly believing he meant to hurt her. Mother had held my hand and repeated the same words again and again. Your sister and the crown prince are in love. You have already caused a misunderstanding between them. You must not say anything foolish and make matters worse. Later, the crown prince sent medicine. Mingzhu accepted it for me. He sent letters. Mingzhu delivered them to me. Then one day, I received a letter that supposedly came from the Eastern Palace. It accused me of deliberately blocking the arrow to attract the crown prince's attention. It said I had ruined his plans and disgraced myself by trying to steal my sister's place. I was so humiliated that I wished I were dead. To silence the rumors, the Lian family hurriedly married me to Feng Yanchen of the Earl of Yoning's household. The Feng family seized my dowry. They took the Yunjian paper house my maternal grandmother had left me. Feng Yanchen despised the scar on my shoulder. He despised the fact that I could no longer lift a brush to paint. He despised the Lian family for failing to bring him more wealth and influence. I endured 7 years in that cold, dark courtyard. Just before I died, an elderly palace attendant who had left the court many years earlier came to see me. She told me the crown prince's arrow had never been aimed at Mingzhu. There had been a snake in the tree. The crown prince had shot the snake. She also told me that the Eastern Palace had never written the letter that humiliated me. Before I could ask anything more, I died, and when I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment the bowstring rang. Jiyun, Mingzhu finally saw the arrow. She reached for me. She had done the same thing in my previous life. She had seized my wrist and dragged me in front of her. Later, she cried and insisted she had only been frightened. She swore she had never meant to use me as a shield back then. I believed her now. As I stared at her outstretched hand, I could almost hear the sound of the arrowhead shattering the bones in my shoulder. The echo of the bowstring had not yet faded. I did not warn her. I did not throw myself forward. I stepped sharply to the side and hid behind the thick trunk of a peach tree. The arrow hissed past Mingzhu's hair. The golden feather was ripped from her hair by the force of the wind, and she screamed as she fell to the ground. Ah! Cries erupted from the noble women around us, but the arrow did not fall with a heavy, sickening sound. It drove into a branch behind Mingzhu. A green and black snake had been pierced through its vital point. Its body thrashed violently among the branches, its tail scattering a rain of peach blossoms. I gripped the tree trunk. My fingers had gone cold. So, there really had been a snake. That arrow in my previous life truly had never been aimed at Mingzhu. Mingzhu sat on the ground, her face deathly pale. She glanced up at the venomous snake, then turned toward the far end of the path. Xiao Qingyuan had already handed his bow to an attendant and was walking toward us. He wore a narrow, sleeved black riding outfit. His back was straight, his movements composed, his expression calm. As he passed through the frightened crowd, he first ordered the guards to remove the snake, then he told them to search the surrounding branches and grass. "Has anyone been injured?" Everyone shook their heads. Mother helped Mingzhu to her feet. Tears still clung to Mingzhu's lashes, but the first thing she asked was not whether there were more snakes. She turned to the noblewoman beside her. "Was His Highness looking at me the entire time?" The young woman froze. Mother patted Mingzhu's hand gently, as though warning her not to speak of it yet. But I had heard every word. The snake had only just been removed. Mingzhu had nearly been bitten, yet she did not care whether she had been in danger. She only cared whether the crown prince had been looking at her. How had I never found that strange before? Xiao Qingyuan stopped beneath a tree. A guard lowered the snake to the ground. It no longer moved, but its curved fangs were still exposed. The snake was concealed behind the blossoms. The guard reported it was less than half an arm's length from Lady Lian. Had His Highness waited another instant, it might have struck. Several young women retreated in alarm. Mingzhu lifted her reddened eyes toward Xiao Qingyuan. "Thank you for saving my life, Your Highness." Xiao Qingyuan inclined his head. "There are many snakes and insects in the hunting grounds. Today's hunt ends here. Have the imperial physicians examine everyone. Those who were frightened may return to their tents." He finished speaking, but did not leave. His gaze moved past Mingzhu and settled on me behind the peach tree. For the first time, I saw his face clearly through the falling petals. In my previous life, I had collapsed the moment the arrow struck me. I only remembered someone catching me before I hit the ground. Later, Mingzhu told me the crown prince had been furious because I had ruined his plans. She said he ordered his guards to carry me away without a second glance, but now there was no disgust in his eyes, only scrutiny. "Second Lady Lian." His voice was not loud, yet the crowd fell silent. I released the tree trunk, stepped out of the shadow, and bowed. "This subject's daughter is here." Xiao Qingyuan looked at the place where I had hidden, then toward the distant spot from which he had fired. Everyone else noticed the danger after the arrow left the bow. He paused. "Why did you hide behind the tree before it was released?" Every gaze turned toward me. Mingzhu's fingers tightened around Mother's sleeve. I saw a flash of panic in her eyes. It was not the confusion of someone who had nearly been bitten. She was afraid I might say something, but I truly could not explain why I had known the danger was coming. I could not tell them I had lived this moment once before. I could not say that in my previous life I had taken that arrow for my sister. The branch above us still trembled in the wind. I raised my eyes to Xiao Qingyuan because I saw that Your Highness was not aiming at my elder sister. One of his brows moved slightly. I continued, "When Your Highness drew the bow, your gaze passed over my sister's shoulder and rested on the branch behind her. I did not know what was hidden there, but I knew the arrow was not meant for her." "Then why did you still hide?" I clenched my hand inside my sleeve because I was afraid of dying. Several people drew in quiet breaths. Young noble women were taught to be dignified even in fear. Few would admit so openly that they valued their own lives. I did not look away. I did not know where the arrow would land. I only knew it would pass in front of me. I have neither the skill nor the courage to save someone at the cost of my life, so I moved aside. Xiao Qingyuan watched me for a long moment. He did not rebuke me. He did not ask another question. He merely said, "Avoiding danger is human nature." Mother's expression changed. Mingzhu lowered her eyes. Tears clung to her lashes as she spoke softly, "My sister is right. I was standing in a dangerous place and nearly dragged her into it. The words sounded considerate. In truth, they directed everyone's attention back to the fact that I had not saved her as expected. Blame entered Mother's gaze. In my previous life, I would already have hurried to comfort Mingzhu. This time, I simply stood beneath the tree and looked at the dead snake. In my previous life, I had taken an arrow that had never been mine to bear. In this life, I had moved one step aside. And suddenly, I wanted to know how many more burdens Mingzhu would try to place on me when I was in front of her. Before Xiao Qingyuan turned away, he glanced at me once more. It lasted only an instant. Yet, I had a strange premonition. In this life, I would not be the only person who remembered the girl who hid behind the peach tree. The spring hunt ended early. Back at camp, the imperial physicians examined every frightened noblewoman. Mingzhu had only scraped her palm when she fell. She did not even need medicine. Mother remained beside her, looking far more anxious than she had when I was pierced in my previous life. "Does your hand still hurt?" "I am fine, Mother." Mingzhu shook her head, but her gaze kept drifting toward the tent entrance. She was waiting for the crown prince to visit. In my previous life, while I lay unconscious from blood loss, Mingzhu told me the crown prince had waited outside her tent for a long time. She said he had not entered only because propriety forbade an unmarried man from visiting. I had listened from my bed, my shoulder wrapped in thick bandages, while she described how worried he had been. All I had felt was guilt. I believed I had intercepted the wrong arrow and destroyed their carefully planned declaration of love. Now, I sat quietly in a corner and drank warm water. No one came to the tent except messengers. Xiao Qingyuan never appeared. After waiting nearly half an hour, Mingzhu's expectation gradually hardened into embarrassment. Mother glanced at me. "Jiyan, you spoke far too bluntly in front of the crown prince." I lowered my cup. "Which sentence does Mother mean?" "The one about being afraid to die." Mother frowned. A daughter of a noble family should remain calm and dignified. "Your sister was in danger. It was bad enough that you did not protect her. How could you speak of fearing death as though you had done nothing wrong?" "What should I have said?" "You could have claimed you were frightened and failed to react in time." "But I did react." I looked at her calmly. I saw the arrow and deliberately moved out of its path. Had I claimed otherwise, I would have lied to the crown prince. Mother had no answer. Mingzhu quickly tried to smooth things over. "Mother, do not blame her. She is young. It is only natural that she panicked when she saw His Highness draw a bow." She reached over and took my hand. "Do not worry, sister. I would never blame you for failing to save me." Her palm was soft. Her fingers tightened slightly. She had always done this first. She announced that she forgave me, then she made certain everyone remembered that I had done something requiring forgiveness. I slowly withdrew my hand. "You have no reason to blame me." The smile on Mingzhu's face faltered. I lifted my cup again. My voice still calm. "The snake was behind you. The crown prince fired the arrow. The imperial guards were responsible for securing the hunting grounds. No matter how one counts it, the blame cannot fall on me." The tent went silent. Mother snapped, "Lian Jiyan, there is no need to be angry." I met her gaze. "I am only speaking the truth. I do not know martial arts and I did not see the snake. Must I risk my life whenever someone else is in danger? Today it is an arrow. Tomorrow it may be a runaway horse. If you fall from a cliff the day after, am I expected to leap after you and catch you?" Mingzhu's eyes reddened at once. "I have never asked such a thing of you." "Then that is for the best." I smiled faintly. If something like this happens again, you should protect yourself. Do not wait for me. She bit her lip as though I had wounded her deeply. Mother was about to scold me when a palace attendant called from outside. Her Majesty the Empress summons both daughters of the Lian family to the main tent. Mingzhu's eyes lit up. She immediately adjusted her hair. Mother helped her replace the golden feather. The arrow had clipped it, leaving a small crack at one end. Mother nevertheless pushed it back into Mingzhu's hair and whispered, "When you speak to Her Majesty, do not dwell on your fear. Remember to thank the Crown Prince for saving you." A chill touched the corner of my mouth. They had already begun building a romance that did not exist. Many frightened noblewomen were seated inside the Empress's tent. Xiao Qingyuan was there as well. He had changed out of his riding clothes and was listening to the commander of the Imperial Guard report the results of the search when we entered. He gave a slight nod. He did not look twice at Mingzhu. The Empress first asked whether Mingzhu had been injured and offered a few words of comfort. Mingzhu knelt gracefully, tears shining in her eyes. "Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. This subject's daughter is unharmed. I am only overwhelmed with gratitude when I think of how His Highness saw the danger and struck the snake with a single arrow to save me." Her voice softened when she said, "To save me." A young noblewoman nearby smiled. "His Highness is a magnificent archer. But Lady Lian must also be blessed by heaven." Another added, "The snake was closest to Lady Lian. His Highness must have been watching her to notice it so quickly." Mingzhu lowered her face. A delicate blush spread to the tips of her ears. The Empress said nothing. She merely looked toward Xiao Qingyuan. He set down the map of the hunting grounds. I saw the flowers move and judged that an animal was hidden among the branches. His voice was as composed as ever. The snake was not threatening Lady Lian alone. Princess Jiaoping and 3 other young women were also within striking distance. I fired to remove the danger. I was not watching any one person in particular. The color vanished from Mingzhu's face. The noble women who had teased her fell silent. Mother stiffened, but quickly forced a smile. "Your Highness cares for everyone, of course." Mingzhu only suffered a greater fright because she was closest to the snake. I kept my eyes on the patterns woven into the carpet. Then the Empress addressed me. "Second Lady Lian, why did you hide so quickly?" I looked up once again. Everyone's attention settled on me. "Your Majesty, I saw that His Highness was aiming behind my sister. I assumed something was wrong in that direction. The arrow would pass close to where I stood, so I did not dare remain in its path." "Did you see the snake?" "No." "Then how did you know the Crown Prince was not aiming at your sister?" I paused. If His Highness truly meant to injure someone, he would not draw a bow in front of so many witnesses. A trace of amusement appeared in the Empress's eyes. "If you did not see the snake, why did you not warn your sister?" It was a sharper question than the first. Mingzhu raised her eyes as though she had finally found a question I could not answer, but I said, "An arrow leaves the bow in an instant." Had I warned her first, she might not have moved in time. She might even have turned and stepped directly into its path. The only thing I could do was move aside. It was not entirely a lie. In my previous life, I had shouted her name when she turned. Her first reaction was not to escape, it was to seize me. I would not give her a second opportunity. Xiao Qingyuan studied me, perhaps weighing how much of my answer he believed. After a moment, he asked no more. The Empress dismissed us the instant we left the main tent. Mingzhu stopped. "Sister." Her voice was low enough that only Mother and I could hear. "Why did you repeatedly insist that His Highness was not trying to save me?" "Because the Crown Prince said himself that he was protecting everyone who might have been harmed." "But the snake was closest to me." And so. She bit her lip as though the words were difficult to say. At the very least, it proves that His Highness saw me. I almost laughed. You wore the brightest riding dress in the entire hunting ground. You also had the Empress's golden feather in your hair. Of course he saw you. Her face went pale. Mother said coldly, your sister has only just escaped danger. She asked a few questions. Why must you answer every word with such hostility? You misunderstand me, Mother. I turned to face them. I simply fear that my sister will mistake the rescue of a subject for romantic affection. The Crown Prince has already explained the matter publicly. If she insists on spreading another version, the Lien family will be the one disgraced. Mother's expression darkened. Are you lecturing me? I would not dare. I bowed. I only do not wish for someone to ask about today's events and hear two different stories from the Lien sisters. Without waiting for them, I returned to my tent. Qingrua followed me inside. Only after the curtain fell did she whisper, My lady, you seemed like an entirely different person today. I removed the silver pin from my hair and placed it on the table. How so? In the past, you were always afraid of upsetting Madame and the eldest young lady. Qingrua stole a glance at my expression, but today you did not yield once. The young woman reflected in the bronze mirror had delicate features and an uninjured shoulder. Her spring dress was clean. There was no blood, no scar that had tormented her for years. I pressed my hand to the intact skin. Qingrua, remember this. From now on, any letter, invitation, or gift addressed to me must be placed directly in my hands. Even if the main courtyard sends someone to collect it, you are not to surrender it. Qingrua froze. But if Madame blames me, let her blame me. I met her eyes. Tell her it was my order. If anything happens, I will bear the consequences. After a moment of hesitation, Qingrua nodded firmly. That evening, everyone prepared to return to the capital. I had barely entered the carriage when Mother lifted the curtain and climbed inside. She had not allowed Mingzhu to ride with us. The wheels rolled slowly over the stone road. Inside the carriage, the only sound was their steady rumble. Mother watched me for a long time before speaking. You know your sister has feelings for the Crown Prince. Why did you insist on humiliating her in public? I looked out the window at the hunting grounds receding behind us. So, in Mother's eyes, speaking the truth was humiliation, but asking me to risk my life to preserve a fantasy was sisterly devotion. I turned back. Mother, that arrow was not aimed at my sister, and the Crown Prince's feelings may not be what she imagines. Mother frowned. What are you trying to say? I gently touched my uninjured shoulder. I am saying that from today onward, whoever my sister chooses to love is her own concern. She must no longer make me suffer the consequences. I barely slept that first night after returning to the estate, not because I was afraid. Too many memories from my previous life surged through me at once, like floodwater finally forcing its way through cracks that had held it back for years. I remembered the third day. After I was shot, Mother sat beside my bed, weeping as she held my hand. She told me Mingzhu had not eaten in 2 days because the Crown Prince had misunderstood her. She said he had only intended to shoot the golden feather from Mingzhu's hair. It was my reckless interference that had made the situation humiliating. She ordered me to write to him and explain. My right arm could not move, so Mingzhu held the brush for me. She asked a question, and I answered. What does my sister wish to tell His Highness? Tell him I did not mean to attract his attention. Anything else? Tell him I will never interfere between him and you. Mingzhu nodded tearfully and carried the letter away. The reply that came later had been as cold as a knife. Now, I wondered whether my letter had ever reached the Eastern Palace at all. At dawn, I ordered Qingrua to bring me a small box from the bottom of my dressing chest. Inside was my personal seal. It was carved from pale green jade in the shape of an orchid. My maternal grandmother had given it to me when I came of age. In the past, I found it troublesome to keep, so I often left it in mother's courtyard and allowed Mingzhu to stamp documents for me. When Qingrua opened the box, I noticed a tiny chip at the lower right corner of the seal. I had never paid attention to it before. "What is it, my lady?" I carried the seal to the window and examined it. The chip was recent. Before the spring hunt, Mingzhu had borrowed the seal. She said she wished to stamp a decorative mark on one of my poetry collections. She did not return it for 3 days. Find a new piece of jade. I placed the old seal back in the box. Have another seal carved today. The old one will be locked away and never used again. Qingrua hurried to obey. I also ordered her to bring every letter and invitation I had received in the past year. Most had passed through the main courtyard. Some seals had clearly been melted twice. Some sheets carried faint fold marks along the edges. Several letters were perfumed with scents I never used. How much had I missed in my previous life? How many people believed they had spoken to me when the person answering them had actually been Lian Mingzhu at the morning hour? Nanny Zhu arrived from mother's courtyard. Madam asks the second young lady to join the family for breakfast. I gathered the letters and placed them away. Tell mother I will come shortly. Nanny Zhu did not leave. Her gaze moved toward the box on my table. Madam also asked this servant to collect your seal. People will inevitably ask about yesterday's hunt. Madam wishes to send several replies in the names of both young ladies so that no improper rumors spread. I closed the lid. The old seal is no longer in use. Nanny Zhu stared. Why not? It is damaged. It is only a small chip. It makes no difference. Madam needs it urgently. So you should give it to this servant. I looked at her. Since when does someone else decide whether damage to my seal matters? The smile froze on her face. Beside me, Qingrua curled her fingers nervously. I placed the box inside a cabinet and locked it. The replies may be brought here for me to read. I will decide what to write. But Madam said Nanny Zhu. I interrupted her. It is my name, not my mother's. Nanny Zhu remained where she was for a moment before leaving in displeasure. Qingrua let out a long breath. My lady, Madam will certainly be angry. It is better for her to be angry than for me to spend the rest of my life not knowing what I supposedly wrote. Half an hour later, I entered the main courtyard. Father was there, which was unusual. Mingzhu sat beside mother, her eyes swollen as though she had been crying. When she saw me, she immediately stood and pulled out a chair. Did you sleep well, sister? Very well. I sat opposite her. Father lowered his teacup, his expression grave. People are already discussing what happened at the spring hunt. I picked up my chopsticks. What are they saying? Some say you hid before the crown prince fired as though you knew danger was coming. Others say the crown prince saved Mingzhu's life, and that perhaps heaven has destined them for one another. I placed a slice of steamed bamboo shoot into my bowl. The first statement is true. The second is not. Father frowned. Rumors cannot be judged only by truth or falsehood. If something benefits the family, it may be guided in a useful direction. If it harms the family, it must be suppressed. How does father wish to guide it? Mother answered. The Empress gave your sister the golden feather yesterday, and the crown prince happened to save her. People in the capital will naturally connect the two. We do not need to spread the story ourselves, but neither must we rush to deny it. I looked at Mingzhu, her head was lowered. Pink pearls hung from her ears, and her shyness was perfectly measured. What does mother wish me to do? If anyone asks, say you were frightened and did not see what the crown prince was shooting. But I did see. Ji Yun. Mother's tone hardened. It is one insignificant sentence. It may be insignificant to my sister. I set down my chopsticks, but it may determine how others judge me. Mingzhu spoke at once. Sister, I will never allow anyone to speak badly of you. If someone asks, I will say you were merely frightened and did not deliberately refuse to save me. There it was again, she always wrapped cruelty in gentleness. I looked at her. Why must you explain to anyone that I failed to save you? She froze. Because you also believe I should have saved you. I do not. Then there is nothing to explain. My voice remained calm. The crown prince fired at a snake. I stepped out of the arrow's path. You were unharmed. The matter is that simple. If someone insists on inventing a romance from it, that has nothing to do with me. Mother struck the table. Lian Jiyun, tea splashed over the rim of her cup. Your sister has always cared for you. She watched over you when you were ill. She pleaded for you when you were punished. Now we ask you to keep silent about one small matter, and you behave as though every favor must be weighed and repaid. I looked at the spilled tea. Mother had said the same thing in my previous life. When the pain in my shoulder became unbearable and the Feng family tried to seize the last remaining shop belonging to the Yunjian paper house, I returned to the Lian estate for help. Mother told me Mingzhu had already borrowed silver from her husband's family on my behalf. She told me to be more considerate and stop burdening my sister. But that so-called borrowed silver had actually come from the Yunjian paper house's profits the year before. I laid a handkerchief over the tea and wiped it away. Mother says my sister cared for me. But why was I ill when she watched over me? Mother paused. I continued. I became sick because she wore my cloak and left me standing in the snow for half an hour. She pleaded for me because she broke grandmother's jade Buddha and claimed I had done it. Mingzhu's face turned white. Sister, those things happened when we were children. Yes, I looked at her. They happened when we were children. I used to believe that because you returned to plead for me, you were kind. Now I understand that if you had not placed the blame on me in the first place, I would never have needed your mercy. The hall became so quiet that a dropped needle would have been heard. Father's brows drew together, but he did not ask about the jade Buddha. He had never cared which daughter had been wronged. He only cared whether the present inconvenience could be ended quickly. Enough. His voice was stern. There is no need to revisit childhood matters. Regarding the spring hunt, the entire household will use one account. The crown prince shot the snake and protected everyone present. Nothing else is to be said. The decision appeared fair in truth. Xiao Qingyuan had already denied any private intention in public. Father did not dare let the Lian family continue encouraging the rumor. Mingzhu bit her lip at last. Her tears fell. I did not comfort her. After breakfast, I returned to my courtyard and ordered Qingrua to inventory every piece of jewelry, contract, and account book belonging to me. By the afternoon, we had discovered that 2 gold hairpins, 1 white jade bracelet, and 3 recent profit certificates from the Yunjian paper house were missing. The eldest young lady borrowed the hairpins last year. Qingrua said quietly. She also took the bracelet. As for the certificates, Madam has always kept them. Ask for them back. Qingrua hesitated. What if the eldest young lady says she lost them? She will repay their value. And if Madam refuses to return the certificates, the Yunjian paper house was left to me by my grandmother. If she refuses, I will inspect the accounts myself tomorrow. Qingrua studied me. Her eyes gradually brightened. This servant will go at once. She had barely reached the door when another maid arrived. My lady, Princess Zhaoping's residence has sent an invitation. I accepted the gold-edged card. Princess Zhaoping, Xiaolingi, was the crown prince's younger sister in my previous life. I had never known her well. I had only seen her from a distance at several palace banquets. The invitation asked me to take tea at the princess's residence 3 days later. On the reverse side was a line of strong, disciplined handwriting. It was not written by a woman. I still wish to hear an honest answer to the question I asked yesterday. There was no signature, but the royal pronoun he used revealed the writer. In my previous life, the crown prince had never truly entered my life. Everything I believed I knew about him had come through Mingzhu. He despised me. He blamed me for ruining his declaration of love. He believed I had blocked the arrow to gain his favor. He demanded that the Lian family marry me away as quickly as possible. Every statement had been delivered by someone else. Now, for the first time, Xiao Qingyuan had sent words directly to me. Qingrua had already gone to retrieve my belongings. I closed the invitation and placed it inside a drawer. The old seal lay locked within. A person did not need a sword to steal another person's life sometimes. All she needed was to speak in that person's place, to receive her letters, then to tell the world what kind of woman she supposedly was. I touched the bronze lock in this life. I would never allow anyone to speak for me again. 3 days later, I visited Princess Zhaoping's residence. It stood on the eastern side of the Imperial Avenue. Large beds of crabapple trees filled its gardens. The princess did not receive me in the formal hall. Instead, she arranged tea and fruit in a pavilion above the water. She seemed far more vivid than I remembered. She wore a pale yellow dress with only 2 freshly picked crabapple blossoms in her hair. When I bowed, she waved impatiently. Do not kneel. Every time one of you noble daughters kneels before me, I feel 20 years older. I rose. Xiaolingi studied me for a while, then smiled. My imperial brother said you were interesting. My hand paused over my teacup. His Highness is too generous. He was not praising you. She rested her chin on one hand. He said you lie without even blinking. I placed the teacup down. Did your Highness invite me here for an interrogation? I am not the one questioning you. She looked beyond the pavilion. My brother will do that himself. I followed her gaze. Xiao Qingyuan was crossing the curved bridge toward us. He wore a moon-white robe rather than his severe riding clothes, but there was still something in his bearing that discouraged carelessness. A palace attendant and 2 eunuchs followed him, making it impossible for anyone to invent a secret meeting between us. When he entered the pavilion, Xiaolingi ordered another chair to be brought. I will sit here as a witness. She pointed to herself. Otherwise, by tomorrow, people will say the crown prince abducted an innocent maiden inside his sister's residence. Xiao Qingyuan glanced at her. How much of your etiquette have you forgotten? If you stopped coming to my residence to meet daughters of noble families, I would not need to remember so many precautions. She winked at me. I suddenly understood why she had agreed to deliver his invitation. She had probably grown tired of women using her to gain access to the Eastern Palace. Xiao Qingyuan ignored her and turned to me. Second Lady Lian, on the day of the spring hunt, you said you saw that I was aiming behind your sister. That is true. You did not see the snake. No, yet before the arrow left the string, you had already hidden behind the tree. His tone remained calm, but every sentence moved closer to the heart of the matter. Your reaction did not resemble a sudden judgment. It resembled foreknowledge. Spring wind moved across the pavilion, scattering ripples over the pond. I had prepared an answer, yet standing before him, I still could not reveal the blood-soaked truth of my previous life. I had a dream. Xiao Lingyi blinked. Xiao Qingyuan said nothing. I continued, in the dream, it was the spring hunt. It was the same tree. When your highness fired, I believed the arrow was meant to harm my sister, so I ran forward and took it for her. What happened afterward? Afterward, my right shoulder began to ache faintly. My arm was injured and I lost the marriage that had originally been arranged for me. My family said I had deliberately blocked the arrow to gain your favor. They married me hastily to a man who was not suitable. He took my dowry and my property, and I did not die well. The amusement left Xiao Lingyi's face. Xiao Qingyuan watched me. It was only a dream. Yes. I held his gaze, but it was too real. Even after waking, I remembered the pain of an arrow entering the bone. When I saw your highness draw the bow that day, I thought of nothing except escaping. The answer was half true. I could not allow him to believe I knew the entire future, but neither could I deny that something unnatural had happened. A dream was the safest explanation. In your dream, Xiao Qingyuan asked, why was I shooting at your sister? Someone told me that your highness intended to shoot the feather from her hair as a declaration of love. Who told you? My elder sister. Xiao Qingyuan tapped one finger against the table. I have never used an arrow to court any woman. I know that now. In the dream, did I ever speak to you personally? I froze. No, every memory I had of him had passed through someone else's mouth. I shook my head. No. Then why did you believe it? The question fell between us for a long time. I could not answer because my sister had told me, because my mother had told me, because they were the people closest to me, because I had never imagined that a person explaining someone else's intentions might be concealing desires of her own. I lowered my eyes. Because I never asked you myself. Xiao Qingyuan did not continue questioning the dream. He lifted the teapot and poured himself a cup. Now that you have asked me yourself, what do you want? I wish to make several agreements with your highness. Xiao Lingyi straightened at once. Clearly interested, Xiao Qingyuan said, speak. If the Eastern Palace has a message for me in the future, please send it through Princess Jiaoping or an officially appointed female attendant. Agreed. All private letters should bear or affix the Eastern Palace's private wax pattern. Agreed. I will answer only on cloud pattern paper and seal my letters with my new personal seal. Any letter sent by another method must not be considered mine. Agreed. I paused. One final condition. Go on. If the matter concerns marriage, reputation, or private affection, I will not accept a third person's version, whether the speaker is my sister, my parents, or another powerful person. I will believe only what your highness says to me directly. Xiao Lingyi looked at me, then at her brother. Xiao Qingyuan asked, are you guarding yourself against me? Not against your highness. I met his gaze. I am guarding myself against everyone who claims to speak for you. The pavilion fell silent. I had expected him to take offense. He was the crown prince. No one dictated how he should write letters or deliver messages. No one told him that his silence would not be accepted as an answer. Instead, he asked, and if I refuse? Then we will not correspond. If I wish to marry you, but refuse to ask you myself? Then your highness lacks sincerity. Xiao Lingyi lowered her head and bit into a pastry. Her shoulders trembled as she tried not to laugh. I did not retreat. Your highness is of exalted rank. You may have no shortage of women willing to guess at your intentions, but I do not wish to guess anymore. Xiao Qingyuan watched me for a long time. Then he took a blank sheet of paper from his sleeve. "Lingy, lend me a brush." She immediately ordered ink and brushes to be brought. Xiao Qingyuan wrote 8 characters across the page. "Ask in person, answer in person." At the end, he wrote a small version of the character from his name, Yuan, and stamped it with the Eastern Palace's private seal. He pushed the paper toward me. "Your fixed mark." I picked it up. The ink was still wet. His strokes were steady and decisive. The supposed Eastern Palace letter from my previous life had carried only a blurred seal. It had never contained writing like this. "From now on," Xiao Qingyuan said, "every private letter sent to you from the Eastern Palace will bear this mark. What if someone imitates it? The private seal remains in my possession. What if it is stolen? Then the failure belongs to the Eastern Palace. I will bear the consequences." He did not hesitate. As I held the edge of the paper, something that had remained tightly knotted inside me for years loosened slightly. Not because he was the crown prince, because when I demanded safeguards, he did not first require me to prove my loyalty. He accepted the rules. He also accepted responsibility for his part in them. Xiao Lingyi leaned over to look. "Brother, you have never placed a special mark on letters to me. You tear open every letter the moment it arrives. Would a mark make any difference?" "Of course." She pushed the plate of pastries toward me. "Ji-yun, this is an excellent rule. I should create a mark for my own letters. People hear me speak to someone once and immediately dare to claim they know my intentions." It was the first time she called me by my name. I smiled at her. Before I left the princess's residence, Xiao Qingyuan did not speak to me alone. When I bowed in farewell, he only said, "Second Lady Lian, a dream is only a dream." I looked up. "You were not struck by the arrow this time. And you have not lost anything." During the carriage ride home, I kept the paper with his 8 characters inside my sleeve. Outside, the streets were crowded and loud. I knew Xiao Qingyuan did not completely believe my story about the dream. He still questioned why I had hidden before he fired. But he had forced me to reveal every secret. He had only reminded me that in this life I still possess choices. 3 days later, the Eastern Palace received a private letter. It had been sealed with my old seal. The letter invited Xiao Qingyuan to meet beneath the moon. It also contained a sentence. I did not hide behind the tree because I lacked feeling. I was merely playing hard to obtain. When I heard about it, I was examining a sketch for my new seal. Qingruo's face had gone white. "My lady, what should we do?" I set down the design. "Did the Eastern Palace open it?" "No." "Where is the letter now?" "Princess Zhaoping sent a female attendant with it. She said it must be handed directly to you." I rose and walked to the window. Most of the peach blossoms had already fallen. The first false letter had arrived sooner than I expected. Mingzhu clearly did not know I had already established a method of communication with Xiao Qingyuan. She did not know I was waiting to see what she could still say once she no longer controlled my name. The attendant Princess Zhaoping sent was called Lady Lu. When she placed the envelope before me, its wax seal was intact. His Highness saw the old seal and ordered the servant to return the letter unopened. I picked it up. An orchid had been pressed into the wax. A small piece was missing from the lower right corner, matching the chip in my old seal. The paper carried a faint gardenia fragrance. Mingzhu loved perfuming her clothes with gardenia. She said its scent was refined. It was less ostentatious than peonies, yet lingered long enough to be remembered. I had once liked it, too. Later, the first concubine Feng Yanchen took into his household wore the same scent. Whenever she entered my room, she deliberately walked past my sickbed, leaving that cloying sweetness behind. I opened the letter. The handwriting imitated mine well. The first strokes were slightly heavy, and the endings curved upward. Even the writer had copied my habit of omitting a tiny dot when writing one particular character. But whoever wrote it had tried too hard to sound shy and seductive. Every sentence was intimate. It did not sound like me at all. The final claim that I was playing hard to obtain was absurd. In my previous life, I had considered it improper even to look directly at Xiao Qingyuan. How could I ever have written such a thing? Did His Highness send any other message? I asked. Lady Lu produced another envelope. His Highness said, "Ask in person. Answer in person." This is his reply. I examined the wax. The deep red seal contained a tiny cloud pattern. At the edge of the envelope was the handwritten yuan mark we had agreed upon. I opened it. There was only one line. You said you would recognize only your new seal and cloud-patterned paper. I remembered. My fingers rested on the page. Lady Lu continued, His Highness also said that whether the person who used your name should be investigated is for you to decide. The Eastern Palace will not publicize the matter without your permission. I was surprised. Why? His Highness said the letter borrowed your identity. If the Eastern Palace acted first, people might discuss your private correspondence with the Crown Prince before they discuss the crime of impersonation. Xiao Qingyuan had considered the danger more thoroughly than I had. If the letter became public, Mingzhu might not be punished immediately. I, however, would first be accused of secretly arranging a meeting with the Crown Prince. Please thank His Highness for me. After Lady Lu left, Qingrua closed the doors and windows. My lady, I will investigate who delivered it. There is no need. But someone used your identity. How far do you believe you can trace it? I folded the false letter. The messenger was most likely bribed for a single task. Even if we investigate, the main courtyard will produce a maid and claim she acted alone. Qingrua looked anxious. Then are we simply letting it go? Of course not. I picked up the envelope. Invite Nanny Zhu here. A quarter of an hour later, Nanny Zhu entered my courtyard. When she saw the false letter on the table, her expression changed for a fraction of a moment. Then it returned to normal. Did the second young lady need this servant? This letter was delivered to the Eastern Palace today. I pushed it toward her. It was sealed with my old seal. Nanny Zhu did not touch it. Why are you showing it to this servant? Because the old seal used to be kept in the main courtyard. But you took it back. Yes. I nodded. Which is why I would also like to know who copied its impression before it was returned. Her expression stiffened. This servant does not know. It does not matter if you do not know. My voice was gentle. Please tell Mother that from today onward, any letter sent under my name without permission will be delivered unopened to Princess Zhaoping. The first time, I issue a warning. The second time, I will ask Father and Mother to accompany me to the princess's residence and explain. The third time, the Eastern Palace may deal with it. Nanny Zhu said quickly, Second young lady, this matter may have nothing to do with the household. If you take it directly to the Eastern Palace, will that not damage the Lian family's reputation? Then the Lian family should stop doing things that damage its reputation. She had no reply. After a moment, she lowered her voice. My lady, the eldest young lady only wishes what is best for you. Using my name to arrange a private meeting with the Crown Prince is for my benefit. Nanny Zhu's head snapped up. That reaction told me enough. She knew what the letter contained. I did not expose her. I only smiled. So, Nanny has read the letter as well. This servant did not. There is no need to explain. I withdrew the letter. Simply deliver my message. That evening, Mother summoned me to the main courtyard. Mingzhu knelt on the floor beside her. Was a young maid trembling and sobbing. Mother looked exhausted. Ji-yun, the matter has been investigated. She pointed to the maid. She secretly copied the impression from the old seal kept in your sister's room. She wrote the letter and sent it to the Eastern Palace because she wished to help Mingzhu gain the Crown Prince's favor. Mingzhu knew nothing about it. The maid struck her forehead repeatedly against the floor. It was all this servant's fault. I saw how distressed the eldest young lady was after the spring hunt. I only wanted to help her. I looked at Mingzhu. Her eyes were red. Her face was filled with remorse. Sister, I failed to control my servant. If you do not believe me, I am willing to explain everything to the Crown Prince myself. Of course, she could not go. If she personally explained, she would be admitting that someone in the Lien family had attempted to lure the Crown Prince to a meeting using my identity. Mother's investigation was nothing more than the selection of a scapegoat. I did not expose it. There is no need for you to go. Mingzhu seemed to relax. As long as this never happens again, I will not pursue the matter. Mother clearly had not expected me to release them so easily. Her expression softened. It is good that you understand the importance of the family. I continued. However, the maid cannot be beaten to death or sold. Mother stared. Why? She has confessed to writing the false letter. If she suddenly disappears and another impersonation occurs later, there will be no witness. The maid trembled even harder. Mingzhu's face also lost color. Send her to work at one of the rural estates. I said. Someone from my household will visit her once each month and make certain she remains alive. Mother frowned. She is only a servant. Why create such trouble? Because she used my name. I looked at Mingzhu. Naturally, I intend to remember her for a very long time. The matter was suppressed. I did not produce evidence accusing Mingzhu. I did not force my parents to admit their favoritism, but from that day onward, it would be far more difficult for the main courtyard to close every gap with a conveniently dead servant. As I left, Mingzhu followed me. Sister. She stopped me beneath the covered walkway. The night wind stirred her skirt. Have you already decided that I wrote the letter? You said you did not, so I will accept that you did not. Then why do you guard against me in everything? I looked at the gardenia-shaped pin in her hair. You said yourself that a servant committed the offense to help you win the Crown Prince's favor. If even your maid is so enthusiastic, I should naturally be more cautious. Tears filled her eyes. We are sisters. Precisely because we are sisters. I lowered my voice. I only warned you. I did not hand the letter to the Crown Prince and ask him to punish you. She pressed her lips together. You have changed. Yes, you were never so aggressive before. Before, I did not know someone would use my name to seek a man's favor. The color drained from her face. I walked away with Qingrua. When we returned to my courtyard, Qingrua told me a matchmaker had arrived from the Earl of Yongning's household. Madam appears very pleased. She says young Master Feng is talented, accomplished, and handsome. I stopped walking. Moonlight covered the stone path in a cold white glow. Feng Yanchen, the man who had driven me into a side courtyard when the pain in my shoulder returned because he disliked the smell of medicine. The man who held the deeds to the Yunjian paper house and told me that a woman possessed nothing of her own after marriage. He took concubines. He fathered children. He emptied my dowry piece by piece. When I became too ill to rise, he would not even allow a bowl of hot medicine to be brought to me. And now, in this life, he had come again earlier than before. I raised my eyes toward the main courtyard. Mingju's first attempt to use my name had failed immediately. The Lien family hurried to arrange my marriage. They were not afraid no one would marry me. They were afraid I would remain in the capital and obstruct Mingju's path to becoming crown princess. Qingrua watched me anxiously. "What will you do, my lady?" I slowly tightened my hand around the Eastern Palace's reply hidden in my sleeve. "First, I will read the marriage contract. Then I will reject it." On the day Lady Feng visited personally, Mother dressed me in a newly made lotus-colored gown. "Young Master Feng will come today as well." She adjusted my hairpin. Her voice was unusually gentle. "He passed the provincial examination last year and has excellent prospects in the spring examinations. The Earl of Yongning's household may have declined in recent years, but it remains a noble family. You would enter as the wife of the eldest son. You would have a fortunate life." She had said the same things in my previous life. At that time, my engagement had already been broken because of my injured shoulder. The capital was full of rumors. Everyone said the Feng family's willingness to marry me was an extraordinary kindness. Only after the wedding did I discover that they had never wanted me. They wanted the Yunjian paper house and the 3 shops my grandmother had left behind. I sat before the mirror as Mother inserted a gold hairpin Mingju had previously worn. "Has the marriage contract been drafted?" Mother's hand stopped. "This is only an introductory meeting." "Why would there already be a contract if there is no proposed contract?" "I do not need to meet young Master Feng today." "What are you saying?" I turned to her. When 2 families discuss marriage, their conditions are important. If the Feng family is sincere, they can first send a draft. How will my dowry be handled? Who will control my property after marriage? If I have no children, who will inherit? All of it should be written clearly. Displeasure appeared on Mother's face. "You are an unmarried girl. How can you speak constantly of property and inheritance? Are you not afraid of being mocked? Marriage lasts a lifetime. If I do not ask now, should I wait until after the wedding and weep?" Mother stared at me. "Did the crown prince say something to you?" "This is nothing to do with him." "Then why do you suddenly believe the Feng family is beneath you?" "I do not." I removed Mingju's old hairpin and returned it to the box. "I only wish to know what they value in me." Mother was silent for a long while. At last, she said, "Very well. If reading the contract will allow you to attend the meeting peacefully, I will ask them to send a draft." The Feng family clearly assumed I would agree eventually. They delivered the proposed contract the next day. The terms were familiar. The Yunjian paper house and 2 shops in the southern quarter would enter the Feng household with the bride. All income produced after the marriage would belong to the Feng family's common accounts. If I had no biological son, the Feng clan would select an heir who would inherit my dowry properties. Even the private silver my mother gave me for emergencies was to be surrendered to my mother-in-law for safekeeping. Qingrua frowned as she read, "My lady, does this not mean they are taking everything you own?" "In my previous life, they did take everything." I spoke so quietly she did not hear. "What did you say?" "Nothing." I took up a brush and wrote comments beside each condition. The Yunjian paper house and the shops were my property before marriage there. The accounts would remain separate. Their income would remain under my control. Whether or not I bore a son, the properties would never pass to the Feng clan. I could appoint an heir of my choice or donate them to the school maintained by my maternal family. My private silver would not be surrendered. When I finished, I ordered the draft returned exactly as it was that afternoon. Lady Feng arrived with Feng Yanchen. I saw the husband from my previous life again in the flower hall. He was 22. Refined in appearance and dressed in a blue-green scholar's robe, he looked modest and courteous. Had I not lived through those 7 years, I would have found it difficult to connect this gentle young man with the cold and cruel husband he became. He bowed, Second Lady Lien. I returned the greeting. Not long after Lady Feng sat down, she raised the matter of the contract with a smile. Lady Jiyun may be young, but she certainly has strong opinions. Those comments, however, seem rather distant. For two families preparing to become one, Mother added, a family shares one life. Why divide every coin so precisely? I did not look at Mother. I addressed Feng Yanchen. What does young Master Feng think? He had not expected the question. After considering it, he said, a woman follows her husband after marriage. A dowry may be called the wife's private property, but she should still consider the prosperity of her husband's family. And if the husband's prosperity requires the wife to surrender every property she owns, husband and wife are one. Why distinguish between yours and mine? Then will young Master Feng write into the contract that I may freely control half of your land and future official salary? His expression changed. Lady Feng immediately intervened. A man must establish his career outside the household. His expenses cannot be calculated in the same way. I nodded. So husband and wife are one only when the wife's property is entering her husband's household. Mother's face darkened. Ji-yun, do not be rude. I am only asking how we would live after marriage. I turned to Lady Feng. If the Feng family agrees to remove those provisions, I am willing to continue discussing the match. If not, then this marriage is unsuitable. Lady Feng's smile faded. Does Second Lady Lien believe that because she has spoken to the Crown Prince several times, the Earl of Yongning's household is no longer worthy of her? What I have or have not said to the Crown Prince does not change the words written in this contract. I placed the draft on the table. Does the Feng family wish to marry me or the Yunjian paper house? Feng Yanchen finally spoke. Must Lady Lien make the matter sound so ugly? It was the same tone he had used the first time he showed impatience with me in my previous life then. I had immediately apologized, terrified that he would think I despised his family because of my dowry. Now, I only looked at him. If the truth is not ugly, the words describing it will not be ugly. For a moment, no one spoke. Feng Yanchen rose. If Lady Lien is so determined to guard herself against her husband's family, there is no reason to continue discussing this marriage. Lady Feng also stood, her face cold. Mother hurried to persuade them to remain. I said only, safe journey. As Feng Yanchen passed me, he lowered his voice. If you reject the Feng family today, you may not find a better marriage in the future. In my previous life, he had said something similar beside my deathbed. If I had not agreed to marry you, where would a woman with a ruined reputation and a scarred shoulder have ended up? But in this life, my shoulder was uninjured. My reputation remained intact. The Yunjian paper house was still mine. I answered softly, you need not concern yourself with that. After the Feng family left, Mother struck the teacup from the table. Are you satisfied? Porcelain shattered. Tea splashed across the hem of my skirt. Do you imagine that because the Crown Prince has spoken to you, he intends to marry you? I have never imagined that. Then why did you reject the Feng family? Because they intended to seize my property. A woman who marries must consider her husband's household. Then I will not marry. Mother's chest rose and fell with anger. Do you believe you can remain unmarried for the rest of your life? I looked at her. If every marriage requires me to surrender my property, my name, and the remainder of my life, why should I not? She stared as though she was seeing me for the first time. After a moment, she laughed coldly. Very well, I would like to see how far you can go without the Lien family arranging your future. I bent and picked up the discarded contract. Mother has forgotten, the Yunjian paper house never belonged to the Lien family. At last, I had struck something she truly cared about. Her face became completely cold. What do you mean? My grandmother left the Yunjian paper house to me. The deed states it clearly. You have managed it for me these past several years, and I have never inspected the accounts. I folded the contract. Tomorrow, I will visit the shop myself. If the accounts are clear, that will be best. If they are not, I will replace those responsible. For the first time, real weariness entered Mother's eyes. Perhaps only then did she understand that I was not taking back a marriage alone that afternoon. Lady Lu arrived with a box of pastries from Princess Zhaoping. There was no letter inside, only a spoken message. His Highness heard that the Feng marriage has been rejected and asked this servant to relay a sentence. What did he say? Lady Lu smiled. His Highness said it is a good thing that Second Lady Lian was able to refuse for herself. He did not congratulate me. He did not use the moment to claim credit. He did not say that if the Feng family pressured me, the Eastern Palace would protect me. He did not suggest that I should rely upon him. Only one sentence. It is good that you are able to refuse for yourself. I opened the pastry box. Inside were Princess Zhaoping's favorite crabapple pastries. She had probably sent them without much thought. Xiao Qingyuan had given me nothing expensive. He had not turned the message into an intimate gesture. Yet, the tense cord inside me loosened a little more. The next day, I went to the Yunjian paper house. The shop stood on a quiet street in the Western Market. Its storefront was small, and the painted sign had faded. The manager's family name was Fong. He had worked for my grandmother many years ago. When he saw me arrive in person, surprise filled his face. Then his eyes reddened. My lady, you have finally come. I unfolded the deed. Manager Fong, I wish to see the accounts from the past 5 years. He was silent for a moment, then he ordered the assistants to close the doors. More than a dozen account books were carried out. I had been reading for less than half an hour when I found withdrawal after withdrawal made in the Lien family's name. 120 taels for Lien Mingzhu's spring dresses, 200 taels for Lien Mingzhu's jewelry, specially made paper provided at no cost for Lien Mingzhu to cultivate friendships among noble women, paper supplied free of charge for Lien family banquets. I raised my head. Do any of these withdrawals bear my signature? Manager Fong gave a bitter smile. Madam said you were young and that she managed the shop on your behalf. Every withdrawal carried the seal of the Lien household's mistress. Has the shop made a profit in the past 3 years? Yes. Where did it go? He looked at me, his voice strained. The household took everything, claiming the money was needed for the eldest young lady's clothing and social engagements. I closed the account book. Sunlight poured through the window. Outside, a vendor called out that fresh cherries were for sale. Yet I could almost smell the medicine that had filled the cold courtyard where I died. Feng Yanchen told me the Yunjian paper house had long been losing money and that he had taken on the burden of saving it. Mingzhu claimed she had used her own dowry to support it. Mother said the property my grandmother left was worthless and that I should not quarrel with my family over a few failing shops. Every word had been false. The Yunjian paper house had never drained the Lien family. The Lien family had been feeding upon it. I pushed the account books back toward Manager Fong. From today onward, no member of the Lien family may withdraw silver or goods without my handwritten approval and my new seal. Lock away the old accounts, close the shop for 3 days, and conduct a complete inventory. Manager Fong nodded again and again, his face filled with emotion. My lady, if the household blames us, send them to me. I stood and looked at the old plaque my grandmother had left on the wall in my previous life. I lost the shop because I wanted to prove I was not selfish or calculating. Now I finally understood the more desperately someone demanded that I ignore my own interests, the more likely it was that they were profiting from my surrender. I touched my uninjured shoulder. The Fong marriage had been rejected. The Yunjian paper house was returning to my hands, but the life that truly belonged to me had only just begun. The Yunjian paper house remained closed for 3 days. When the news reached the Lien estate, Mother sent 2 groups of people in succession. The first was Nanny Zhu. She said the household planned to hold a flower viewing banquet the following month and needed a new batch of fine writing paper. I asked Manager Fong to prepare an invoice at the regular market price. Nanny Zhu stared at the total, her face turning green. My lady, must you charge your own family merely for using a few sheets of paper? It is not a few sheets. I pointed to the list. 300 sheets of gold-traced flower paper, 200 sheets of silver-flecked rice paper, and 120 embroidered invitations. Another shop would charge even more. But in the past is over. I handed the invoice back to her. If Mother considers it too expensive, she may hold a smaller banquet. Nanny Zhu stormed away. The second visitor was Ming Zhu. She came without a maid, dressed in plain robes that made her appear especially fragile. She stood in the rear courtyard of the shop and looked at me. Must you truly draw such line between yourself and the family? I ordered tea for her. If you wish to take paper from the shop, you must pay the listed price. I did not come for paper. She watched me closely. I came to persuade you. Persuade me of what? Mother has managed this shop for you all these years. Even if she gained no credit, she endured the burden. Now you have suddenly taken it back and sealed the old accounts. If outsiders learn of it, they may believe Mother stole your property. If the accounts are clean, outsiders will have no reason to believe that. You know she did it for the Lien family. Why should the Lien family's banquets and your clothing be paid for by my shop? Hurt filled Mingzhu's eyes. We are one family. When you marry, will you hand your entire dowry to me? She hesitated. That is different. It is. I nodded. What belongs to you remains yours. What belongs to me must belong to the whole family. Do you consider that fair? Her face paled. She lifted her tea, but did not drink. Are you doing this because of the Crown Prince? The Crown Prince again. Weariness entered my voice. Why do you believe everything I do must concern him? You would never have treated me this way before he noticed you. Before, I did not know you were spending my money. I also did not know someone would use my seal to write to the Crown Prince. Her hand shook. Tea spilled over the rim of her cup. I did not write that letter. I never said you did. I offered her a handkerchief. Why are you nervous? She did not take it. Instead, she rose. Her eyes reddening. You have become a stranger. From childhood until now, whenever I had something good, did I not share it with you? Whenever Mother punished you, was I not the one who pleaded for mercy? Yet now, because of a few sheets of paper and several hundred taels, you guard against me as though I were a thief. I looked at her. What you gave me were things you no longer wanted. When you pleaded for me, it was because the offense was connected to you in the first place. As for several hundred taels, I opened the account book. In the past 3 years, you withdrew 1,746 taels from the Yunjian paper house. That is not several hundred. Her face went completely white. I did not know it was so much. Now you do. Mother arranged those expenses. Then Mother may explain them. She pressed her lips together. After a long silence, she whispered, "Must you humiliate me like this?" I closed the account book. "Are you humiliated because you took my money or because I found out?" She stared at me for a long time. Then she turned and left. After that day, no one from the Lien family came to demand anything else. I reorganized the Yunjian paper house. It was not a large business. I knew nothing of vast commercial strategies or miraculous methods of becoming rich. I could only begin with what I understood. When my grandmother was alive, she had been especially skilled at producing paper with hidden watermarks. Held against the light, the paper revealed faint images of orchids, plum blossoms, or bamboo leaves. Each batch contained a different design, making it difficult to imitate. I ordered Manager Fong to restore the old technique. I also introduced a system for registering private seals and wax patterns. A woman who commissioned stationery from us could choose a unique watermark. When she sent a letter, she could pair the paper with a registered wax seal. If the letter was opened, replaced, or copied, the alteration would be much easier to detect. At first, Manager Fong worried about the cost. "My lady, ordinary customers may not wish to pay more." "Then make only a small quantity," I said. "Not everyone will need it. Those who do will be willing to pay." When the first batch was finished, I sent a set to Princess Zhaoping. It was not flattery. She had once complained that people constantly used her name to pass false messages. 3 days later, the princess's residence placed an official order. 2 days after that, the Eastern Palace ordered a batch as well. Manager Fong's hands trembled as he held the order. "My lady, should we charge the Eastern Palace less?" "Why?" "It is an honor. Honor cannot pay the craftsman." I checked the order again. "Charge the standard price, no more and no less." The Eastern Palace's payment arrived promptly. Not a single coin was missing. There was no reward added to the amount, no additional condition. Xiao Qingyuan even forbade the eunuchs from publicly mentioning that the crown prince used paper from the Yunjian paper house. He did not want anyone to believe I was using the Eastern Palace's name to attract business. I sat in the accounting room and looked at the clean, precise entry. A faint sense of peace settled inside me. Everyone who came close to me in my previous life had taken something. The Lien family took my silver. Mingzhu took my name. Feng Yanchen took my dowry and the remainder of my life. Xiao Qingyuan simply bought paper. Then he paid the agreed price. It was such a small thing that it should not have mattered. Yet I remembered it for a long time. Half a month later, Princess Zhaoping came to the Yunjian paper house in person. She wore a veiled hat and entered through the rear door. The moment she saw me, she slapped a letter onto the table. "This paper of yours is useful." I picked up the letter. The wax seal had clearly been disturbed, but the bamboo leaf watermark within the sheet had not changed. "Someone opened your Highness's letter." It was a private letter to my maternal grandmother. Xiao Lingyi gritted her teeth. "Someone opened it, read it, and resealed it because they wanted to know whether I mentioned my brother's marriage." "Did you discover who?" "A palace maid who swept the corridors. Beyond that, she claims to know nothing." She dropped into a chair. "This happens constantly in the palace. Everyone believes that delivering a false message in my name or opening one of my letters is not a serious offense. I poured tea for her because what they steal is not an object. It is your voice." Xiao Lingyi studied me. "No wonder my brother calls you stubborn." "What else did he say?" "He said you would rather miss an opportunity than guess." My hand paused over the teapot. "He is not wrong." Xiao Lingyi leaned closer. Would you like to know why he has been using your paper lately? I placed the teapot down. If your highness wishes to tell me, you may. If not, you need not deliver his private thoughts. She froze. Then she burst out laughing. You truly are no fun. No wonder my brother always looks helpless whenever he mentions you. I did not ask another question. When she had finished laughing, she said, Do not worry. I will not speak for him. But there will be a flower viewing banquet in the palace next month. Mother has invited both Lian's sisters. Lian Mingzhu has recently been telling the noble women that although my brother said the arrow was meant for the snake, he saw only her in that moment. I frowned. Has the crown prince not already explained the truth? She claims he cannot admit his feelings because of his position as heir to the throne. Xiao Lingyi rolled her eyes. Some people are like that. If another person says nothing, they call it shyness. If they are rejected, they call it playing hard to obtain. If someone avoids them, they claim it is because the other person cannot control their feelings. Unless my brother publicly declares that he dislikes her, she will always invent another meaning. I looked at the watermarked paper on the table. Mingzhu had done the same thing in my previous life. The crown prince did not visit because he feared rumors would harm her. He did not reply because he did not wish to endanger her. He did not ask to marry her because the court situation made it impossible. Every rejection became proof of secret devotion. What will she do at the flower viewing banquet? Xiao Lingyi spread her hands. Who knows? But you should be careful. Lately, she has been asking everyone what flowers my brother likes, what scents he prefers, and which colors he favors. I remembered the golden feather she had worn at the spring hunt. I also remembered the false letter perfumed with gardenia. Thank you for warning me. When the palace invitation arrived at the Lian estate, Mingzhu brought it to my courtyard herself. She placed it on the table and looked at the cloud-patterned paper I was testing. You must be very proud of yourself lately. The shop has only just begun to recover. There is little to be proud of. With Princess Zhaoping and the Eastern Palace as customers, it will recover quickly. Enough. She ran her fingers lightly over the paper, but commerce is still beneath the dignity of a noblewoman. A woman's true future lies in marriage. I said nothing. She turned toward me. When His Highness chooses me publicly at the banquet, everything you are doing now will become a joke. I pulled the sheet she had touched out from beneath her hand. If you are so certain, why come here to tell me? Her smile stiffened. I merely hope you will stop competing in vain. I have never competed with you for the crown prince. You may say that, but in private you deliberately approach Princess Zhaoping and persuade the Eastern Palace to use your paper. The princess bought paper and paid for it. The crown prince bought paper and paid for it. I looked at her. You claim to want his heart, yet you do not care what he has actually said. Do you truly want him, or do you want the position of crown princess? Mingzhu sprang to her feet. You have no right to say that to me. I raised my eyes. Then wait until the flower viewing banquet. Let the crown prince speak for himself. She stared at me, her expression changing several times before hardening into a cold smile. Very well. When His Highness chooses me, do not regret it. As she turned away, her skirt brushed a discarded sheet from the edge of the table. The paper drifted to the floor. Sunlight passed through it, revealing a clear orchid leaf watermark. I bent and picked it up. A thought suddenly occurred to me. Handwriting could be copied. A seal could be duplicated. But every batch of watermarked paper contained different patterns in different positions. As long as I recorded where each batch had been delivered, I could identify the origin of any letter. I placed the discarded sheet inside a box. The flower viewing banquet had not yet begun, but I already knew Mingzhu would not be satisfied with a war of words. The banquet was held in the Qiyuan garden within the palace. The peonies were in full bloom there. Shadows lay across the long corridors as noble women moved between the flowers, their voices softened by the beauty of the season. Mingzhu wore pale crimson palace robes. They were not the black Xiao Qingyuan often wore, nor were they the purple favored by the empress. They were the same shade of red she had worn beneath the peach tree at the spring hunt. The cracked golden feather remained in her hair. The moment I saw it, I understood what she intended. Sure enough, not long after the banquet began, a young noblewoman mentioned the venomous snake that day was terrifying. If His Highness had not struck it with a single arrow, Lady Lian might have been harmed. Mingzhu lowered her head with a modest smile. His Highness is a master archer. He would have saved anyone standing there. Though her words sounded humble, her fingers touched the golden feather. Someone immediately continued, yet His Highness was so far away and still noticed the snake behind Lady Lian before anyone else. Surely that means fate was involved. I heard that after she was frightened, the Eastern Palace personally sent calming medicine. Mingzhu spoke softly. The Eastern Palace merely showed kindness to the families of officials. There was no private meaning. The more she denied it, the more the others believed there was something to deny. Mother sat nearby wearing a carefully restrained smile. She was clearly pleased. I lowered my eyes and drank my tea. Xiaolingi sat beside me looking increasingly irritated. If my brother saves 100 people, must he marry all 100? Her voice was not quiet. The surrounding conversation stopped. Mingzhu blushed. Your Highness misunderstands. This subject's daughter has never thought such a thing. If you have never thought it, why do you wear that broken feather everywhere? Xiaolingi was mercilessly direct. Are you afraid people will forget the arrow my brother fired? The Empress coughed lightly. Lingi. Xiaolingi closed her mouth. Clearly unwilling, but the words had already been spoken. The atmosphere around the tables became uncomfortable. Tears rose in Mingzhu's eyes. She looked wounded, but continued to preserve her dignified posture. At that moment, Xiao Qingyuan arrived. He had only come to accompany the Empress briefly and would not remain for the entire banquet. Everyone rose to bow. Mingzhu stood in the most visible position, the golden feather catching the sunlight as Xiao Qingyuan passed her. Her body suddenly swayed. A noblewoman beside her hurried to support her. Lady Lian, what is wrong? Mingzhu's face turned pale. I merely remembered the snake from the spring hunt, and my heart began to race. She raised her eyes to Xiao Qingyuan. This subject's daughter has behaved improperly. Please forgive me, Your Highness. Xiao Qingyuan stopped. Everyone waited for his response. He looked at the feather in Mingzhu's hair. If the sight of it reminds you of your fear, why continue wearing it? Mingzhu froze. The arrow, grazed the feather at the spring hunt and nearly injured you. His tone remained even. It is hardly an auspicious object. Mingzhu's face slowly lost all color. Xiao Qingyuan turned toward the banquet guests. There was a snake in the hunting grounds that day. I fired to eliminate a danger. Lady Lian was not the only person threatened by it. The Eastern Palace later sent calming medicine to every frightened noblewoman according to protocol. It was not sent only to the Lian family. The women who had encouraged the rumor lowered their heads. Mother's smile froze. Xiao Qingyuan continued. I do not know why this incident has repeatedly been described as private affection. Today, I will make it clear. Protecting others is the responsibility of the heir to the throne. It is not a promise of marriage. He did not raise his voice. Yet each sentence dismantled the fantasy Mingzhu had carefully constructed. She stood among the flowers as tears finally spilled down her cheeks. This subject's daughter never dared to hope for such a thing. Xiao Qingyuan looked at her. That is for the best. There was no tenderness in his expression, no unspoken regret, only a clear rejection. No one at the banquet dared speak further. I watched him standing beyond the shadows of the peonies and thought of my previous life. Had he spoken so openly then? Perhaps a false letter would not have driven me into the Feng household, but I quickly suppressed the thought. I did not know whether he had explained himself in my previous life. I only knew that someone had severed every possible path by which his true words might have reached me. After the banquet, Xiaolingyi invited me to see a newly blossomed black peony. Halfway there, we saw Xiao Qingyuan standing at the end of a covered corridor. Lady Lu and several palace attendants waited at a respectful distance. Xiaolingyi looked at him, then at me. Brother, I will give you only 15 minutes. You will sit there. He pointed to the other end of the corridor. Do not wander off. She frowned but took the attendants with her and sat where he indicated. I approached Xiao Qingyuan and bowed. Thank you for clarifying the matter today. I did not do it for you, he said. The rumor arose through the misuse of my name. It's my responsibility to correct it. I nodded. Your Highness is right. He appeared not to have expected such a straightforward response. After a moment, he asked, Why did you say nothing today? Because I was not the one who needed to explain. And if I had remained silent, then I would have distanced myself from the Eastern Palace. One of his brows moved. You are always prepared to leave. Distance is the simplest form of self-protection. It is also the easiest way to miss the truth. I looked toward the peonies beyond the railing. I am trying to change. He was silent for a moment. Second Lady Lian, if I truly held private feelings for someone, what do you believe I should do? I raised my eyes. His expression remained composed, but his gaze was deeper than usual. Wind stirred the flowers outside the corridor. I did not ask whom he meant. I did not flatter myself by assuming the question concerned me. You should first ask whether she is willing. Xiao Qingyuan watched me. And if she is not, then stop. What if she is only afraid? Fear is still unwillingness. I spoke each word clearly. You cannot decide for her merely because she might change her mind later. He remained still for a long time. Then he said quietly, Very well, I will remember. In the distance, Xiaolingyi had already begun waving impatiently. Brother, 15 minutes. Xiao Qingyuan stepped aside to let me pass. As I moved by him, I heard him say, What I said today was not intended to make you owe me a favor. I stopped. I know. How? If your Highness wanted me to feel indebted, you would not have said saving others was merely your responsibility. I looked back at him. You would have claimed you fired because you cared for me, and that you spoke today to protect me. The corner of Xiao Qingyuan's mouth seemed to move. You are skilled at recognizing the difference. One painful lesson was enough. I walked toward Xiaolingyi. No further words followed me. Yet, his promise to remember remained in my thoughts for a long time. When we returned to the Lian estate, Mingzhu fell ill. She refused visitors, and mother forbade anyone from mentioning the flower viewing banquet in her presence. The entire household moved cautiously, as though Mingzhu were the person who had been wronged, rather than the woman who had spent weeks using Xiao Qingyuan's name to spread a false romance. I continued visiting the Yunjian paper house. 3 days later, Qingrua brought me a letter. My lady, it came from the Eastern Palace. I accepted it and examined the wax first. It bore the Eastern Palace's cloud pattern. Then, I checked the handwritten mark. There was a yuan character, but when I opened it, I found only one sentence. There is no need for us to meet again. The handwriting closely resembled Xiao Qingyuan's. The tone was cold. Qingrua watched me anxiously. My lady, I did not answer at once. The letter from my previous life had been the same. A few cold sentences had pushed me toward ruin. I had believed the crown prince despised me, and so I allowed mother to arrange my marriage. Now, history seemed to be repeating itself. My chest tightened. My fingers grew cold, but I forced myself to hold the paper against the window. Sunlight passed through the sheet. A long, narrow bamboo leaf watermark emerged. I remembered perfectly the batch delivered to the Eastern Palace contained cloud-shaped watermarks. The bamboo leaf pattern had been delivered only to the Lien family's main courtyard. I looked at the cold sentence, then I laughed. Qingrua, prepare the carriage. Where are you going? Princess Jiaoping's residence. In my previous life, one sentence telling me never to appear again had been enough to silence me forever in this life. I would stand before Xiao Qingyuan and ask what he had truly said. When I arrived at the princess's residence, Xiaolingi was trying on a new riding outfit. The moment she heard I had brought a letter from her brother, she ran out before even fastening her belt. What did my brother write to you? I handed her the letter. She read it. Her expression became strange. He did not write this. How can your highness be certain? If my brother truly did not wish to see you, he would not write a letter. She turned the sheet over. He would send me to tell you directly. He would never leave written evidence for people to twist into rumors. That did sound like Xiao Qingyuan. Xiaolingi examined the paper again. This is not from the batch delivered to the Eastern Palace. That is why I came. Whom do you suspect at present? Suspicion does not matter. I took the letter back. What matters is what the crown prince actually wrote. Xiaolingi looked at me, then she smiled. You are learning quickly. She immediately sent someone to invite the crown prince. Xiao Qingyuan arrived sooner than I expected. When he entered the pavilion, he carried an unsealed letter. If you had not come today, I was preparing to send someone to find you. I handed him the false letter. Did your highness write this sentence? He glanced at it. No. The cord around my heart loosened. It was not that I had never believed the letter for one instant. When I first saw it, every humiliation and fear from my previous life had returned. But this time, I had not allowed that single instant of belief to decide the rest of my life. Xiao Qingyuan handed me the real letter he had been holding. This is what I intended to send. I unfolded it. He invited me to attend a small painting and calligraphy gathering hosted by Xiaolingi. He also asked whether the Yunjian paper house could produce a stronger, tamper-resistant envelope for the princess's residence. The familiar handwritten mark appeared at the end. There was no ambiguous affection, no sudden rejection, only a clear question. I placed the false and genuine letters side by side. The imitation handwriting was good, but the false writer had missed the slight pause Xiao Qingyuan always made when writing the character in my name. The wax seal contained a cloud pattern, but its edges had been melted and pressed again. Most obvious of all was the paper's watermark. Xiao Qingyuan asked, where was the bamboo leaf paper delivered? Only to the Lien family's main courtyard. Xiaolingi gave a cold laugh. Do we need to ask who did this? We cannot accuse my sister based only on the paper. I said, many people in the main courtyard could have touched that batch. Xiaolingi frowned. Are you still defending her? No, I am refusing to build my judgment upon guesswork. I looked at Xiao Qingyuan. I needed only to confirm that your highness did not write this. As for the person who exchanged the letters, I will handle the matter when I return. Xiao Qingyuan did not object. After a moment of silence, he asked, "When you saw those words, did you believe them?" For an instant. Why? Because they resembled what happened in my dream and because I am still unused to believing that someone will continue to honor an agreement. He looked at me. You are permitted to doubt. I raised my eyes. Your Highness does not mind? I do. His answer was immediate. But my displeasure does not give me the right to silence you. If you doubt me, ask. If I am unhappy, I will also tell you myself. My fingers tightened around the true letter. The bridge of my nose suddenly stung. Feng Yanchen had often said one sentence to me in my previous life. You married me. Therefore, you should trust me. He demanded unquestioning faith, yet he never allowed me to ask where the silver had gone. He did not permit me to examine the ledgers. He did not allow me to question why he spent his nights in a concubine's courtyard. The Lian family also told me I should trust my relatives, but what they called trust usually meant closing my eyes. Xiao Qingyuan, however, told me I was allowed to doubt. In the future, he said after a pause, I will make my meaning clearer. His fingers pressed against the false letter with more force than usual. He was not calm. He simply did not turn his anger against me. Xiao Lingyi rested her chin on her hand. Talking to the two of you is exhausting. One of you is always afraid that asking too much will cause offense. The other is always afraid that saying too much will frighten her. One sentence would have solved everything. I did not say I never wanted to see you again. Xiao Qingyuan glanced at her. Do you have nothing else to do? I am helping you. She rolled her eyes, then turned to me. Ji Yun, will you attend the painting gathering? Yes. Will you make the envelopes? Yes. There, was that difficult? She stacked the two letters together. The rest can be dealt with when you return to the Lian estate. When I left the princess's residence, Xiao Qingyuan accompanied me to the second gate. Lady Lu and Qingruo remained several steps behind. He suddenly said, Lian Jiyun. It was the first time he had addressed me directly by name. I stopped. There is one sentence I truly wish to say today. Please speak, Your Highness. There is no need for us to meet again. My fingers tightened. He looked at me. A faint smile finally appeared in his eyes. If I ever truly wish to say such a thing, I will say it to you in person. I will not leave it for another person to deliver. For a moment, I stared at him. Then I smiled, too. I will remember. By the time I returned to the Lian estate, evening had fallen. The main courtyard immediately summoned me. When I entered, I saw the genuine letter in Mother's hand. It should have been delivered to me. Instead, she had crushed its edge between her fingers. Mingzhu sat nearby, her eyes swollen from crying. Mother did not ask where I had gone. She said directly. Mingzhu was confused for a moment. She did not write the false letter herself. She ordered a maid to exchange it. At last, they admitted it. Yet Mother's voice contained no anger toward Mingzhu, only exhaustion and resentment toward me. I looked at my sister. Why did you exchange the letters? She shook her head through her tears. I was afraid the crown prince was using you. He humiliated me publicly at the flower viewing banquet, then immediately invited you to a private gathering. And you consider that using me? She clutched her handkerchief. The crown prince does not like you. He is only approaching you because you oppose me. He wishes to use you to humiliate me. I looked at her. She truly believed it. Everything that contradicted her fantasy required another explanation. The Crown Prince did not reject her because he felt nothing for her. He rejected her because I had interfered. He did not approach me because he wished to know me. He did it to provoke her. Mother said heavily. Jian, you have seen how much your sister has suffered all these years in order to become a suitable crown princess. She only feared you would steal what rightfully belonged to her. Why can you not yield to her once? I almost laughed. What rightfully belongs to her? When did the crown prince belong to my sister? Mother, you arranged for her to study etiquette, household management, poetry, and history. The crown prince never promised to marry her because she invested so much effort. Must a man who never chose her now become responsible for her expectations? Mother's expression darkened. Must you always be so aggressive? I am only asking what is true. The crown prince is not a hairpin mother purchased for my sister. He is not a position I can surrender merely by stepping aside. Mingzhu leapt to her feet. You finally admit it. Admit what? That you want to become crown princess. Tears stood in her eyes, but her expression had sharpened almost beyond recognition. You began scheming at the spring hunt. You deliberately hid so His Highness would notice that you were different. Then you approached Princess Jiaoping and opened that shop to attract the Eastern Palace's attention. And now you still claim you are not competing with me. I watched her quietly. Sister, do you truly believe the Crown Prince would like a woman merely because she avoided an arrow and sold a few sheets of paper? Then why does he not like me? The question burst from her. The moment she said it, even she appeared startled. Silence filled the hall. I did not answer. I could not explain Xiao Qingyuan's feelings for him. I also refused to imitate Mingzhu and define another person's love. You may ask the Crown Prince yourself. Her face turned white. She did not dare. She dared intercept letters. She dared create rumors. She dared explain him through other people's mouths, but she did not dare stand before Xiao Qingyuan and hear direct rejection. I took the genuine letter from Mother's hand. From today onward, my letters are not to be received by the main courtyard. My sister is also forbidden from using my identity to approach the Eastern Palace. Mother's voice was cold. What else do you intend to demand? I wish to speak with Father. About what? I placed both letters inside my sleeve. About who controls my property, my marriage, and my correspondence. If Mother believes I cannot yield to my sister once, then we should clarify every boundary at the same time. Father's face became darker than I had ever seen it when he learned that the letters had been exchanged. Not because I had been wronged. Because if the matter reached the Eastern Palace, the Lian family might be accused of impersonating the Crown Prince and interfering with his private correspondence. Mingzhu, for the first time, he spoke to my elder sister with real severity. Do you understand what you have done? She knelt on the floor, weeping beautifully. I was only too afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid the Crown Prince would use my sister. Afraid she would take away the Lian family's hope. Father closed his eyes. Briefly. The Crown Prince never promised to marry you. But Mother said, silence. He struck the table. Mother's face changed. My lord, Mingzhu is young and confused. The false letter caused no real consequence. Jian has already spoken to the Crown Prince and clarified everything. The matter caused no disaster precisely because she went and clarified it. Father turned to me. What do you want? At last, we had reached the true question. Not who was right, not who was wrong. What did I want? I placed a prepared document on the table. First, the Yunjian paper house and my 2 shops in the southern quarter must be completely separated from the Lian family's common accounts. No one from the household may withdraw silver or goods for any reason. Father frowned, but did not immediately refuse. Second, every letter, invitation, and gift addressed to me must be delivered directly to my courtyard. The main courtyard may not receive, open, or redirect them. Third, the Lian family may not negotiate a marriage for me without my personal consent. Fourth, my sister may never again use my identity to approach the Eastern Palace, nor may she spread claims concerning any private relationship between the Crown Prince and me. Mother laughed coldly. Are you trying to sever all ties with this family? No. I looked at her. I am taking back what already belongs to me. You live beneath the Lian family roof. Everything you eat and wear comes from this household. If Mother wishes to calculate the cost, I will list every expense the household has paid for me. We can compare it with the 1,746 taels taken from the Yunjian paper house. Mother's face turned dark with fury. Father interrupted, enough. He lifted the document. I agree to the first 3 conditions. Mingzhu must also obey the 4th. She raised her tear-streaked face. Father, if you do anything else in the Eastern Palace's name, I will send you to a rural estate. His tone was hard, not for Ji Yun's sake, for the lives of everyone in the Lian family. At least he was honest. He did not say he acted because I was his daughter. He did not say he finally understood how deeply I had been wronged. He merely chose the path that created less danger. I was not disappointed. In my previous life, I had constantly waited for my family to awaken and love me properly. Now, I needed only the result. Thank you, Father. He studied me. What exactly is your relationship with the Crown Prince? At present, there is no relationship. Why does the Eastern Palace correspond with you repeatedly, business and direct inquiries? Has the Crown Prince expressed an intention to marry you? No, Mother said coldly. Then after creating all this conflict, you may still gain nothing. I turned toward her. Mother still does not understand. I rejected the Feng family, took back my shop, and protected my letters because those things belong to me. I did not do them in order to marry the Crown Prince. Even if he married another woman tomorrow, I would still make the same choices. Must a woman become Crown Princess before her life can be considered worthwhile? Mother stared at me. I looked at Mingzhu kneeling on the floor. My sister wants the position of Crown Princess. That is her concern. I do not owe her that position, and I have no duty to obtain it for her. Mingzhu's tears continued to fall. You won. I shook my head. I was never competing with you. You are the one who placed me inside this contest. Father ordered ink and pressed the Lian family head seal beneath my conditions. Mother did not add hers. She remained seated, her face pale, as though I had personally cut something away from her. I knew our relationship would never return to what it had been, but had the past truly been good? In the past, I was obedient. I was gentle. I was willing to surrender. Therefore, she loved me. The moment I stopped sacrificing myself, her love became blame. What value was there in preserving such a bond? As I left the main courtyard, Mingzhu caught up to me outside. Ji Yun, for the first time, she did not call me sister. Do you believe Father agreed because you are capable? He is only afraid the Crown Prince will blame the Lian family. I know Mother will never forgive you. I know that, too. Even if you marry into the Eastern Palace, the Crown Prince will have other women. Everything you obtain today will eventually be taken by someone else. I stopped. That will be a matter for my future self. It has nothing to do with you. She stared, unable to understand how I remained so calm. Are you not afraid? I am, I said, but fear is not a reason to let someone else decide for me. She clenched her jaw. You will regret this. I did not answer. When I returned to my courtyard, Qingrua told me Princess Jieping had sent a formal invitation. It asked me to visit her country residence 3 days later and inspect the new tamper-resistant envelopes. On the back, Xiao Qingyuan had written a line in his own hand. This time, it was not a message delivered through another person. It was not an ambiguous suggestion. He wrote, I wish to ask what you want. If you do not come, I will take that as your refusal. I stared at the sentence for a long time. He had not said what he intended to ask, but I knew. Qingrua stood beside me and spoke cautiously. Will you go, my lady? In my previous life, a sentence like this would have kept me awake all night. I would have guessed at every possible meaning. Now I did not want to guess. Yes. Qingrua smiled. Does my lady also feel something for the crown prince? I looked through the window. Dusk rested upon the newly opened crabapple blossoms. Their petals trembled in the wind. Did I like him? I was still afraid of his position, afraid of the high walls of the Eastern Palace, afraid of court etiquette, afraid that one day I might again become a story told through other people's mouths, but I was willing to hear what he wished to say. That alone was very different from the person I had once been. Princess Jieping's country residence stood outside the capital. There were no palace walls and far fewer layers of ceremony. The most striking feature of the estate was a small archery ground. When I arrived, Xiao Lingyi was riding around the field. She saw me and waved from a distance. Ji-yun, you finally came. Xiao Qingyuan stood beside the archery platform. He wore dark blue-green training clothes rather than formal court robes. A short bow rested in his hand. I approached and bowed. He did not immediately mention the invitation. Instead, he showed me the envelope samples produced by the Yunjian paper house. After the princess's residents tested them, we discovered that the sealing wax softens too easily in summer. I examined the samples. A small amount of pine resin can be mixed into the wax, and the opening can be constructed in 2 layers. How much will that increase the cost? Approximately 20%. Charge the new price. As always, business remained business. When we finished, Xiao Lingyi finally returned from riding. Brother, if you do not speak now, I will speak for you. Xiao Qingyuan said calmly. Go and change your clothes. I refuse. You are covered in mud. I will sit farther away. She jumped from the horse and carried a teapot to a nearby seat, clearly determined to watch. Xiao Qingyuan appeared accustomed to her behavior. He placed the short bow on the platform. Lian Jiyun, would you permit me to formally seek your hand in marriage? There was no elaborate prelude. He did not begin with a declaration of how deeply he loved me. But this was exactly how he spoke, clearly, directly, without leaving space for someone else to interpret his intentions. I looked at him. Why does your highness wish to marry me? Because you do not guess on my behalf. Is that a virtue? To me, it is. He continued. You also refuse to let me decide for you. You state your boundaries when you doubt something. You seek the truth directly. I believe there would be less fuss between us. I did not answer immediately. Your Highness knows only the person I am now. I can be jealous. I can be afraid. I may retreat because of rumors. I may never become the crown princess the emperor and empress expect. I will not surrender the Yunjian paper house, and I will not become close to the Lian family again merely for the sake of the Eastern Palace. When I finished, Xiao Qingyuan asked only, anything else? I stared. Your Highness does not object. Whether I object should be decided after I know the truth, not after forcing you to conceal it. He paused. The Yunjian paper house is your private property. The Eastern Palace has no right to dispose of it. Your relationship with the Lien family is also yours to determine. As for what makes a suitable crown princess, that should not be defined solely by others. What I require is someone willing to speak honestly with me. Wind moved across the archery ground in the distance, the straw target swayed. I curled my fingers into my palm. Your Highness holds immense power. You may respect my refusal today. You may not always do so. If I enter the Eastern Palace and one day you decide my choice is wrong, will you make the decision for me in the name of protecting me? Xiao Qingyuan did not rush to promise that it would never happen. There may be disagreements. I may also make mistakes. But you may tell me directly. And if your Highness refuses to change, then tell Lingyi, tell the Empress, tell the court historians if necessary. In the distance, Xiao Lingyi nearly spat out her tea. Brother, are you proposing marriage or inviting the historians into your household? Xiao Qingyuan ignored her. He continued looking at me. What I can offer is not a promise that I will never hurt you. It is the certainty that if you are hurt, you will retain the right to speak, refuse, and hold me accountable. Those words moved me more deeply than any vow of eternal devotion. Everyone in my previous life had promised to treat me well. Yet when I said I was in pain, they called me inconsiderate. When I refused, they called me a disgrace to the family. Xiao Qingyuan did not promise that he would never be wrong. He promised only that I would never lose the right to say he was wrong. I cannot agree immediately, I said softly. That is acceptable. Your Highness will not ask how long I need, answer after you have thought clearly. And if my final answer is no, I will stop. I looked at him. That was precisely what I had told him after the flower viewing banquet. First, ask whether she is willing. If she is not, stop. He had remembered. Xiao Qingyuan picked up the short bow. Do you know how to shoot? I learned a little. After my injury in my previous life, I was never able to draw a bow again. Feng Yanchen hated the sight of my scarred shoulder. He forbade me from wearing fitted riding sleeves in public and refused to let me mention that I had practiced archery as a girl. Now, I accepted the bow. It was not heavy. It had been made for a woman's strength. A coiled snake had been painted on the straw target. When I raised my arm, my right shoulder did not hurt. There was only the familiar strain of muscles long unused. Xiao Qingyuan stood nearby. He did not step behind me and place his hands over mine as many instructors would. He did not say I lacked strength and offered to do it for me. He merely said, move your left foot half a step forward. I obeyed. Relax your shoulder. I slowly exhaled. Watch the arrowhead. Not the center of the target. I released the string. The arrow flew and struck the belly of the painted snake. It did not reach the vital point, but it landed firmly in the target. Xiao Lingyi applauded from the distance. Not bad. I smiled, too. Xiao Qingyuan handed me a second arrow. Again. Will your Highness not aim for me? You do not need me to. He took his place beside me, not in front of me, not behind me. I will not allow another person to speak for me again. My second arrow struck beside the snake's head. Still not accurate enough, but I knew that if I continued practicing, one day I would hit the place I chose. When I lowered the bow, Xiao Qingyuan asked, do you have an answer now? I looked at the two arrows in the target. I am willing to allow your Highness to court me formally, but you may not petition the Emperor and Empress until I personally agree to the marriage. Agreed. I must also read the marriage contract first. Agreed. The Yunjian paper house will remain yours. He answered so quickly that I looked up. A clear smile finally appeared in Xiao Chengyuan's eyes. Is there anything else? Say it all now. I smiled, too. Nothing for the moment. Then tell me when you think of something. After returning to the Lian estate, I did not tell Mother about the meeting. It was not concealment. I simply no longer needed her approval for every choice I made. Mingzhu learned about it soon enough. There had been many servants and attendants at Princess Jieping's country residence. By that very evening, word had reached the Lian household that the crown prince and I had spoken at the archery ground. The next day, as I passed the stables, I saw Mingzhu standing before a restless black horse. The horse trainer kept trying to dissuade her. Eldest lady, Wu Yun has been unusually temperamental. It would be dangerous to ride him during the autumn hunt. Mingzhu stroked the horse's mane. The crown prince admires women who ride well. The trainer looked troubled. But your riding skills, she turned sharply when she saw me. Her expression cooled at once. Are you attending the autumn hunt, too? Princess Jieping invited me. Can you ride? A little. She gave a quiet laugh. Then you had better stay away from me. The autumn hunt is not a spring banquet. If something truly happens, there may not be a tree for you to hide behind. I looked at the black horse pawing violently at the ground. An uneasy feeling rose inside me. In life, Mingzhu had always been able to create situations in which someone needed to save her. She fell into ponds. She frightened horses. She injured herself. She called those incidents fate's way of bringing her and Xiao Chengyuan together. Now that he had rejected her openly, what else might she do? The trainer tightened the reins again. The horse tossed its head, the whites of its eyes showing. Mingzhu smiled. The fiercer the horse, the more memorable it becomes once tamed. I looked at her. Then I understood. She did not intend to tame the horse. She intended to use danger to force Xiao Chengyuan to remember her. The day of the autumn hunt was overcast. The maple leaves at the imperial estate had turned a brilliant red, and the mountain paths were covered with damp fallen leaves. Before departure, the trainer again begged Mingzhu to change horses. Eldest lady, Wu Yun kicked apart part of the stable last night. He is not steady today. Mingzhu fastened her wrist guards. He is merely unfamiliar with me. Please ride Xu Etuan instead. She is gentle and better suited to the ladies. I do not want her. Mingzhu looked towards Xiao Chengyuan in the distance. No one remembers something too docile. I stood beside Xiaolingi and heard every word. She frowned. Has Lian Mingzhu lost her mind? She wants to prove she is an excellent rider, but she is not. That was the truth Mingzhu could never accept. Mother had raised her to believe she must be the finest noblewoman in the capital. She had to excel at music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. She had to understand household management and court etiquette. She had to ride and shoot well, even when she lacked the ability. She could never admit it. After the hunting party set out, I remained beside Xiaolingi. Mingzhu rode Wu Yun near the front, repeatedly glancing back at Xiao Chengyuan. He was occupied with ordering the guards to inspect the mountain path. He did not notice her. When we reached a narrow stretch of woodland, Wu Yun snorted sharply. I saw Mingzhu lower her head with her right hand. She pulled a long hairpin from her head. The sharp tip flashed beneath the gray sky. She concealed her hand in the horse's mane. My heart tightened. Sister! I called to her loudly. She looked back. There was no panic in her eyes. She seemed to be waiting. In the next instant, she drove the hairpin into the horse's neck. Wu Yun screamed and reared. Mingzhu cried out, "Help me!" The horse charged wildly toward the center of the path. Xiao Qingyuan was ahead. Xiao Lingyi and several noblewomen were behind. Mingzhu had calculated the position carefully. If Wu Yun charged forward, Xiao Qingyuan would be forced to intervene. If the horse turned back, I would once again be expected to stand between Mingzhu and everyone else. She was waiting for me to deal with the disaster she had created. I did not run toward her. "Everyone dismount." I seized Xiao Lingyi's reins, moved toward the trees. Xiao Lingyi reacted instantly and swung down from her horse. I ordered Qingrua and the guards to lead the nearby horses away so that Wu Yun's panic would not spread through the herd. "Horse trainer!" I shouted. "Wu Yun has been stabbed. Prepare the ropes." The trainer had been near the rear of the party. The moment he heard me, he rushed forward with several men. Wu Yun charged several yards and nearly collided with Xiao Qingyuan. He did not ride directly toward the maddened animal. Instead, he dismounted immediately and handed his own horse to a guard. "Clear the path. Do not block it from the front. Use ropes from both sides." Mingzhu clung to the horse's back, screaming his name, "Your Highness, save me." Xiao Qingyuan did not rush forward to pull her into his arms. He calmly directed the trainers into position. 2 ropes flew from either side. One caught the horse's neck. The other wrapped around a foreleg. Wu Yun struggled violently before collapsing sideways onto the grass. Mingzhu was thrown from the saddle. She rolled twice through the wet leaves. The ground was soft and she suffered only a scrape on her forehead and another on her elbow. I stood at the edge of the trees and watched her raise her head. The first thing she looked at was not her injury. It was Xiao Qingyuan. But he first ordered the imperial physician to examine Xiao Lingyi and the other noble women. Then he had the trainer inspect Wu Yun. The trainer quickly found a small bleeding wound on the horse's neck. Someone stabbed him with a sharp object. Mingzhu's expression changed. She instinctively hid one hand inside her sleeve, but when she fell, the blood-stained hairpin had dropped into the grass. Qingrua saw it first. "My lady, that belongs to the eldest young lady." Everyone turned. Mingzhu lunged toward it. A guard reached the hairpin before she did and blocked her path. Xiao Qingyuan approached and looked down at the bloody pin. "Lady Lian, is this yours?" Mingzhu's lips trembled. "No, it only resembles one of my hairpins." Xiao Lingyi said coldly, "You were wearing it when we departed." I saw it clearly. Mingzhu immediately turned toward me. It was Ji Yun. She approached my horse earlier. She must have tampered with the equipment and thrown the hairpin here to frame me. Every gaze shifted to me. In my previous life, I always panicked in moments like this. I rushed to defend myself. One disappointed glance from Mother was enough to scatter my thoughts. Now, I simply addressed the horse trainer. "Please inspect the saddle and reins." He obeyed at once. A few moments later, he reported, "There is no damage to the saddle, stirrups, or reins." Wu Yun panicked because he was stabbed in the neck. I asked, "Was the eldest young lady advised to change horses before departure?" The trainer nodded twice. "She refused." Mingzhu sobbed, "Even if I refuse to change horses, that does not prove I stabbed him." "Of course not." I looked at her. "That is why I have not accused you. I only saw you place your hand behind the horse's mane. I also saw Wu Yun lose control at that exact moment. Whether you stabbed him is for those present to judge." Mingzhu's face was deathly pale. Suddenly, she threw herself toward me. You discovered it. You knew what was happening. Why did you not save me? I stepped aside. Unsteady on her feet, she fell onto the ground. You could have warned me. You could have seized the reins. You could have rushed forward and shielded me, but you did nothing. I looked down at her. I did warn you. I called your name. You heard me and stabbed the horse anyway. Her mouth opened. I also saved people. I pointed to Xiaolingi and the women who had withdrawn safely among the trees. I moved them out of the horse's path. I called the trainers. What you truly wish to ask is not why I failed to help. You wish to know why I did not help in the exact way you had planned. Her face twisted with shame and fury. I am your elder sister. You are supposed to stand in front of me. The forest path fell silent. Even Mother froze. Mingzhu seemed to realize what she had said, but it was too late. The belief she had concealed during the spring hunt was finally exposed. She truly believed I belonged in front of her. When an arrow came, I should shield her. When rumors came, I should accept the blame. When the crown prince rejected her, I should retreat. When her marriage prospects failed, I should surrender mine. She had never truly regarded me as a sister. I was only a shield she expected to lift whenever danger approached. I walked toward her. At the spring hunt, I did not take the arrow. Today, I did not stop the horse with my body. I did not harm you. I merely stopped suffering the consequences of your choices. Mingzhu sat among the wet leaves. Tears and mud covered her face. She turned to Xiao Qingyuan. Your Highness, I only love you too deeply. I only wanted you to look at me one more time. Xiao Qingyuan regarded her. I have seen you. Hope flashed in her eyes, then he continued. I have seen you injure an animal and endanger a princess and several noble women for the sake of your fantasy. I have seen you use your sister's name and exchange private letters. And I have seen that you believe another person should die for you. The hope in Mingzhu's face shattered. She collapsed back onto the ground. Mother finally stepped forward and embraced her. Mingzhu was only confused for a moment. She did not truly hurt anyone. Xiaolingi laughed coldly. No one was hurt because Ji Yun moved us out of the path. If Wu Yun had charged into the women, would Madame still claim Mingzhu did it only because she loved my brother? Mother's face went pale. She had no answer. Xiao Qingyuan did not order Mingzhu to receive a severe public punishment. He instructed the guards to record the entire incident and return the matter to the Lian family for discipline. He also revoked Lian Mingzhu's right to attend future palace banquets and imperial hunts. It was not a sweeping decree that solved every problem, but it destroyed her ability to use court rumors to increase her status. When the matter was settled, the crowd gradually dispersed. Xiao Qingyuan walked toward me. He did not first ask about Mingzhu. He did not praise the way I had confronted her. He looked at my arms. Are you injured? No. Frightened? A little. He nodded. How do you wish to deal with the Lian family? I will speak to them myself. Very well. He did not say he would decide for me. He did not command me never to place myself in danger again. He only confirmed that I was unharmed and asked what I wished to do. I looked at Wu Yun behind him. The trainers had finally calmed the horse. The wound on his neck was shallow, but blood continued to seep from it. Your Highness, yes, at the spring hunt when I hid behind the tree, did you think I was selfish? No, why? Because you did not create the danger. He glanced toward Mingzhu. Refusing to bear the consequences of another person's actions is not selfishness. My eyes suddenly burned. No one had ever said that to me in my previous life. Again and again, I was ordered to be sensible, to be considerate, to remember every kindness another person had shown me, but no one had ever told me that refusing to sacrifice myself was not a crime. I lowered my head to hide my emotions. Xiao Qingyuan did not question me. He simply offered me a clean handkerchief. The wind is strong. Go home. That evening, Father announced that Mingzhu would be confined to her courtyard not for several days, indefinitely. Mother begged him to reconsider. He refused. She was willing to stab a horse today. Tomorrow, she may set a fire. If she continues moving freely through the capital, she will eventually destroy the entire Lian family. As Mingzhu was escorted back to her courtyard, she passed me. She did not cry. She did not curse me. She only looked at me with empty eyes. Are you satisfied now? No, I said, I have merely stopped cleaning up after you. She suddenly laughed. Do you believe the crown prince will always respect you? One day, you too will become a woman who loses herself for him. I did not argue. No one could predict the future completely. Perhaps one day Xiao Qingyuan would change, but even if he did, I would not be the Lian Jian of my previous life. I possess my own property, my own name, my own judgment, my own path of retreat. That was enough. The next morning, Father delivered a document to me. It was not an official letter from the Eastern Palace to the Lian family. It was a draft marriage agreement. Xiao Qingyuan had signed his name at the end. He had not stamped it with the crown prince's seal. The accompanying letter read, I have not yet petitioned the emperor and empress first. Lady Lian must read this agreement. If you do not approve, it will be destroyed. I unfolded the document. The first clause stated, all property owned by Lian Jian before marriage shall remain under her personal management after marriage. I read the sentence for a long time. Then I looked at Qingrua. Prepare the carriage. Where are we going? The Yunjian paper house. I intend to examine every clause. After I finish, I will give him my answer. The marriage agreement consisted of 12 pages. I spent the entire day reading it in the rear courtyard of the paper shop. Xiao Qingyuan had not filled it with poetic promises. He did not swear that he would love me for 10,000 lifetimes. Instead, he listed every matter we had truly discussed. The Yunjian paper house and the 2 shops would remain my premarital property. I could continue operating them after marriage. The Eastern Palace could not seize or use them under any pretext. If my position as crown princess damaged the businesses, the Eastern Palace would compensate the actual loss. I could not be ordered to bear the cost without payment. The Lian family would have no right to use its connection to the Eastern Palace to withdraw my private property. My correspondence and personal relationships would remain under my control unless the safety of the Eastern Palace was involved. My letters could not be opened at will. Even if Xiao Qingyuan and I disagreed in the future, I would retain the right to state my position directly. I would retain the right to refuse. The final clause was the simplest. The marriage may be presented to the emperor and empress only after Lian Jian gives her personal consent. I looked at the words and remembered the Feng family's contract. That document had divided everything I owned before I had even entered their doors. The Yunjian paper house would belong to the Feng family. My dowry would belong to the Feng family. If I bore no son, my property would pass to a Feng nephew. I myself had not appeared in a single clause, but Xiao Qingyuan's agreement placed me everywhere. Not the Lian family's daughter, not the future crown princess, simply Lian Jian. Manager Feng waited outside for a long time. When I finally put down the agreement, he asked carefully, "Have you finished reading it, my lady?" "Yes." "Do you wish to change anything?" "Yes." I picked up a brush and wrote beside one clause, if the Yunjian paper house is required to suspend business because of the Eastern Palace, compensation shall be calculated according to its average profits over the previous 3 years. The Eastern Palace may not determine the amount unilaterally. Beside another clause, I added, I may appoint the inheritor of my private property regardless of whether I bear children. When I finished, I ordered Qingrua to send the agreement to Princess Zhaoping's residence. 3 days later, Xiao Qingyuan returned a revised version. He had accepted every change. He had not negotiated. He had not used his position as crown prince to remove a single condition. At the end, he added 3 words in his own hand, anything else? I looked at them and could not help smiling. I wrote beneath them, not for now. Then I removed my newly carved orchid seal. The new seal had no chipped corner. Its lines were clean, and its petals opened fully. I signed my name at the end of the marriage agreement. Then I pressed the seal into the ink and stamped it beside my signature. Mother had not stamped it for me. Mingzhu had not taken my old seal and decided in my place. I did it myself. Only after the signed agreement was returned to the Eastern Palace did Xiao Qingyuan formally petition the Emperor and Empress for permission to marry me. The Empress summoned me to the palace. She asked whether I understood what it meant to become crown princess. It means restrictions, duty, and countless eyes watching you. It is not merely the promises written in a contract. I understand, Your Majesty. You still intend to operate your paper shop? Yes. One day, people may accuse the crown princess of competing with common merchants for profit. I will not use the authority of the Eastern Palace to force anyone to buy from me. I will not attempt to monopolize the paper trade. If people believe that a woman must abandon all business merely because she has gained rank, I cannot satisfy them all. The Empress watched me for a long time. She did not immediately praise me, nor did she promise that she would always support my choices. She only said, Qingyuan says you are clear-minded. I hope you remain so after entering the Eastern Palace. I bowed. I hope so as well. The wedding was set for the following February, 1 month later. Mingzhu was sent to live with an aunt in the south. Father did not force her into a humiliating marriage. He did not send her to a convent. He simply reclaimed the portion of her prepared dowry that had come from the Lian family's common funds. He also stopped creating opportunities for her to marry into a powerful household. Mother wished to accompany her. Father refused. Before Mingzhu left, she came to see me. She had grown much thinner since the autumn hunt. She wore blue-green robes. There was no golden feather in her hair, no gardenia-shaped pin. We sat across from each other. She looked at me. The crown prince truly intends to marry you. Yes, Yuan. You still think this was a contest? She lowered her eyes. If not for you, His Highness would have saved me at the spring hunt. He did save you. He also saved Princess Zhaoping and everyone around you. That is not the kind of saving I mean. She looked up. I wanted him to see only me. But you never saw him. She froze. I continued. You do not know what he likes. You do not know what he dislikes. You do not care what he actually says. When he rejected you, you claimed he was afraid. When he explained that he shot the snake, you claimed his position prevented him from admitting the truth. When he approached me, you claimed he was using me to provoke you. You do not love Xiao Qingyuan. You love an imaginary crown prince who is destined to adore you. Tears slowly filled her eyes. Is it wrong to want that? It is not wrong to want to be loved, but it is unreasonable to force someone who does not love you to participate in your fantasy. It is wrong to harm innocent people in order to prove that fantasy is real. She remained silent for a long time. Mother says you destroyed me. Mother also said I destroyed your marriage, but I was never engaged to the Feng family. In the same way, you were never engaged to the crown prince. Her tears fell. Do you hate me? I looked at her. In my previous life, I had hated her. I hated her for stealing my name, for severing every path by which the truth might reach me, for making me believe I was a disgusting woman despised by everyone around her. After my rebirth, I had imagined making her experience every pain I endured, but during the autumn hunt, when I saw her sitting among the fallen leaves and demanding to know why I had not thrown myself before the horse, I finally understood something. I had never been the thing imprisoning her. She was trapped by her own inability to accept that she would not always be chosen. I do not wish to hate you anymore, I said, but I will not forgive you. Her face went pale. Will we still be sisters? In name, nothing more. She did not look back when she left. I did not accompany her to the gate. After that, Mother rarely came to see me. According to tradition, she still helped prepare my wedding clothes, but she never again held my hand and shared tender confidences as she had when I was obedient. She continued to believe I had been too cruel. She believed that if I had yielded once more, Mingzhu might have enjoyed a better future. I stopped trying to persuade her. Some people do not fail to understand the truth. They refuse to accept it because doing so would force them to admit how deeply they hurt you. Mother did not wish to admit it. I no longer needed her confession. The Yunjian paper house gradually became stable. Many women began ordering private stationery. Some wrote to sisters who had married far away. Some recorded their own conditions while negotiating marriages with their families. Others simply wanted paper that could not be easily opened and replaced. The shop did not become the greatest paper business in the capital. I did not become unimaginably wealthy. But the accounts were clear each month. The craftsmen received steady wages. I had an income of my own. I had a road I could take if everything else failed. That was the life I wanted. On our wedding day, Xiao Qingyuan did not promise never to fail me. After we drank from the shared marriage cups, he placed the Eastern Palace's private seal and a newly carved smaller seal before me. These are used for every private letter sent from the Eastern Palace. You may compare them whenever you wish. I lifted the smaller seal. Is Your Highness not afraid I will examine everything too carefully? I am, he answered seriously. But I already agreed. I laughed. He looked at me. Must you still call me Your Highness? I hesitated. Cheng Yuan. A smile entered his eyes. Ji Yun. Our marriage was not free of conflict. The first time I returned late because of business at the paper shop, several Eastern Palace officials declared it improper. Xiao Qingyuan also frowned and asked why I had not informed him before leaving. I assumed he intended to restrict me. My expression immediately turned cold. Only later did I learn that a sudden storm had flooded several streets. He had been worried that my carriage was trapped and had sent people searching for me for half an hour. He still did not always speak gently. I still raised my defenses too quickly, but we argued. We asked questions and we stayed until the conversation was finished. No one intercepted our letters. No one explained one of us to the other. The following year, I entered the familiar peach forest once more. The flowers bloomed exactly as they had in my previous life. Xiao Qingyuan stood beside the archery path with two bows in his hands. Do you remember this place? I remember. I walked to the peach tree. A faint scar from the arrow still marked its trunk. In my previous life, I had rushed forward and taken the arrow for Mingzhu. In this life, I hid behind the tree now. Standing there again, my shoulder was uninjured. There was a bow in my hand, and beside me stood someone willing to wait until I made my own choice. Xiao Qingyuan handed me one of the bows. A painted snake curled across the distant straw target. Will you hide this time? I accepted the bow. I will not shield anyone either. He took his place beside me. We raised our bows at the same time. Wind moved through the peach forest. Petals fell around us like rain. I drew the bowstring to its fullest and saw the arrowhead settle steadily toward the target. Qingyuan? Yes. What if I miss? Then shoot again. What if you hit the target first? I will wait. I smiled. The bowstrings rang together. 2 arrows passed through the falling blossoms and struck the straw target one after the other. His arrow pierced the snake's vital point. Mine landed an inch away, pressed closely beside it. Neither of us stood in front of the other. Neither of us hid behind the other. We both held our own bows. We both stood side by side. In that moment, I finally understood. The arrow in my previous life had not merely taken my shoulder, my marriage, and my shop. It had taught me to believe that living meant endlessly sacrificing myself for others. In this life, I stepped aside not because I was heartless, because I finally admitted one truth. My life was also worthy of being saved, and love did not mean one person shielding the other from everything. True love meant that when wind, rumors, and arrows came toward us, neither of us would decide the other's path. We would stand beside each other. We would ask in person. We would answer in person. And then we would face what lay ahead together.